You're listening to the Cantina Cast, your home for thought-provoking Star Wars talk. Join Albert and Jonesy in breaking down the latest news, trailers, movies, and of course, your favorite characters from a galaxy far, far away.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Cantina Cast. My name is Albert Padilla, and this is episode 399, The Ridiculousness of Boba. No, it's the Book of Boba Fett, Chapter 4, The Gathering Storm. I'm going to take this off because I can't even see anything. Joining me tonight is Jonesy as well.
My show brother.
Yeah, you had yours on. I was like, oh, I'll put mine on. But then I was trying to do it before the show started, and it was just, I'm going to take this. Jonesy, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, man. It's a chilly. So we're down in Texas, of course, and Albert's out in Austin. I'm out in Houston, and Austin got a little bit of wintry precip, I guess you might call it. Oh man, you are slick. If you're not watching the live stream, we'd like to remind you we have a live stream every time we record at 9 p.m. Central, whenever that tends to be. But Book of Boba tend to be Thursday nights. So,
it's cold. It's actually very, very cold. It was down to 31 yesterday or last night. I think it got, and then today it was like 32. We had snow. It was raining. I was having like trauma, PTSD from like last year at this time.
When you guys were melting snow off the roof for water.
Yeah. And I was checking to see where Ted Cruz was at, making sure he hadn't left the Cancun, and just making sure all the signs weren't there that this was going to be, another snow apocalypse.
The wintry apocalypse is back upon us.
Yeah, So you're doing well. I'm doing well. Yeah. We've got a really
pretty cool episode. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I would say I don't think we have any news, do we? No, let's just get right into it.
Not really.
I was I guess one of the things I really enjoyed about, this is probably my second favorite episode. I think the second one was still part 2.
Right.
The Tribes of Tatooine was probably still my favorite.
Right.
But this was a close second. I think it had a lot of different emotions. It was kind of all over the place, and it was very broad. It was a longer episode, which I enjoyed. I like the 40-minute length of it all.
Yeah.
I should have brought that out. You're just busting out all of them now. But I thought it was a pretty good episode. So before we get into the good and bad, the ugly, kind of what are your opening thoughts and opening comments here on this?
I kind of like this one from beginning to end. I thought I think this is more of the type of episode we were expecting to get from Book of Boba, which I think is why it's probably been a little better received across the board, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we've looked at the response across social media and things like that, this seems to be, and even what we've seen in our own Discord, was that this one seems to be more about what people are expecting to see, and it's hitting the right or the better notes, I guess, or the notes people expected to have. And so, and I kind of feel that. I mean, it was a good episode. I think the only rub we had was that there was the time jump was not as obvious until Boba actually made a comment that, him escaping the Sarlacc pit was so many years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was the only really big disconnect across all of this. But otherwise, it was, again, we're seeing all the things that we want to see, but we're getting more of the current, the present stuff that's going to happen. And I think that's important for us to be able to move forward and stop living in the past so much. And I think we're pretty close to getting out of the past.
Yeah, I think so too. There may be an opportunity for us to kind of go back. We'll get to that here, hopefully, in just a little bit. But I think I'm with you on that. I think we're past that finally. Not that was a bad thing. I was actually starting to feel like I was enjoying the flashbacks more than I was the present time, because of
they had the story, right?
Yeah, it's where all the story was at, right? Yeah,
right.
Which is fine. I could go either way, I guess, if depending on where this goes. But I would like to see just a couple more things in the flashbacks, but we'll get to that here in just a little bit. So,
right. Yeah.
Okay. So if you're joining us for the live stream, thanks for being here. And we're going to kick this off by kind of going through our good, the bad, and the ugly. So things that we felt were really went well in the show, things that maybe didn't go so well, and then we'll get into what we felt was just ugly about it. So I'll give you the first take here. First salvo at good. What was the? Give me one of your goods here for the show.
Good. I actually liked the mod parlor scene. I thought that was actually a lot of fun. And I know people have been complaining about maybe the music and it was out of place. I thought it was fantastic, actually. It was really refreshing and it was a lot of fun. And Thundercat was just cool. Like, I love just his cool demeanor, Well, you should have led with that when he drops the money off. I just thought it was absolutely perfect, and that his own mods and everything that was going on, and we got a montage.
Montage.
And
I was gonna
I
say.
was okay with this montage, and the music actually, I enjoyed the music of the montage. As inconsistent as the music has been for Book of Boba Fett,
It's really been all over the place. Yeah.
it really has been. But this one, like this part of the music, even though it was very different than Star Wars, it was perfect for the scene. And I think a lot of people warmed up to the mods in this kind of way
Hmm.
with this scene. And I think it was really important for us to get this in, that Fennec is a product of all of that.
Yeah.
Now, granted, they kind of rebuilt her in a matter of a few hours, a bit far fetched, but overall, really, really love this scene.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. I actually enjoyed the mod scene a lot because it had a montage. But
Yeah.
beyond that, there
Probably
were
probably the best montage we've had.
well,
at
I don't
all.
know. We may have to do our top 10 montage between
We're gonna have a top 10 at some point. We're gonna have so
Yeah.
many.
Well, between this and Mandalorian, I mean, we've got to be hitting close to 10, if not over 10 at this point. So,
Right.
but I enjoyed that. Overall, I mean, I liked everything about my favorite part of this episode, though, apart from the maybe revenge or avenging moment that he had.
Mhm.
Maybe we'll talk about that.
That was cool.
I think I really enjoyed just the Sarlacc pit and that whole seeing Slave One fly across the screen, and then it was kind of just hovering there, and I mean, it was all just like I keep saying this is like John Favreau's toys, right? And we're watching him play with his action figures and his toys and stuff,
Right.
and it's just things that I would have never imagined, right? Seeing Slave One inverted, to quote Top Gun,
Gun.
you know what I'm talking about there. Here we go with the 80s references, but yeah, seeing him inverted like over the Sarlacc pit, and then just that cinematography, like with when Boba Fett when Slave One was kind of coming up into the shot, and you were like at the perspective of the mouth, and it was
Right.
kind of closing right, and it was getting real dark. I mean, all that was just beautiful in terms of the way it was filmed, the cinematography, and the way that the whole thing was framed. I thought was wonderful. So, all of that was kind of up there for me at the top, and beyond that, I'd say it was really hard to pick anything. I mean, there was hard to pick anything that was bad for me, though.
Yeah.
I couldn't think of anything that was really bad. Even like the moments, like the little cat chasing the cat mouse thing, and the with the chef and all that.
Yeah.
I didn't. I mean, I thought it was funny. I know some people had some problems with that. I know some people had some problems with the mod scene. I didn't really have anything that was horribly bad in this episode. Like I said, it's still for me probably right below the Tribes of Tatooine, but they're pretty close, and I really enjoyed that one. I don't think I had anything that was really bad outside of maybe the cinematography or the editing at some point in that one.
Right.
But
I'm
what about you? What about you? Have anything
Well, I'm
bad?
going to feature a comment here about one of the things I actually loved. So, Dark Tower says Black Chrysanthemum getting drunk, tearing off the arms was a highlight of the episode. And I can't disagree with this, because I was really worried when Garza Fwip was starting to feed him with, you were a champion of the arena and a gladiator and all of this, BS that she was pumping him full of. And it kind of looked like he was buying into it for a little bit, that he was going to second guess and not hurt the Trandoshan. I absolutely loved that he still went through with it and ripped the arm off the Trandoshan.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, come on, just do it. Please do it. Please do it. And when he did it, I pumped my fist. I was like, yes, this is what he should do.
Right.
It's what
It's very much in character.
It was, and it was, I'm glad they didn't cheap out on that. And they actually went through with it, because it just made so much sense. So that was a lot of fun. And actually, I kind of like the interaction with him and Boba as well. As far as bad though, yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of bad to it. I think the one bad thing it was when he was holding the droid up by the neck, after the little ridiculous chase scene.
Yeah.
Like, why do you have to tell him I am Boba Fett? Like, who the hell cares? I mean, he's a droid. Like, why are you going to tell, like, I am Boba Fett? Like, it just doesn't matter. And it felt like Boba was repeating lines. And I think this is maybe the more general complaint, is that it seems like we're regurgitating story once or twice an episode. And yeah, Oren says, I crave violence. I don't know that that's true, but I crave violence in certain characters. That is 100% true.
Yeah,
Yes.
no. You thrive in violence, by the way. So.
Oh, I do. Yeah, I do tend to excel. Like, yes, it's a thing.
No, I get what you're saying though. That was it was a little over the top, maybe, but the whole thing was just kind of funny to me.
Yeah,
So
well, Qui-Gon Jinn hits it right on the nose. The kitchen scene was straight out of the Little
yeah,
Mermaid.
Le Poisson.
It was very much chasing the crab all around the kitchen.
Yeah,
It was, yeah, but it was okay. You know, the way it ended up was all right, but I really liked how Fennec got a moment to shine. I really
Mhm.
liked how they worked together too. I thought that was really cool about seeing how they, created that relationship and created that bond. But as far
yeah.
as
I mean, what a cool first date, right? Going out, killing a bunch of
I know, right?
riders, and then infiltrating Jabba's palace, stealing a vehicle, night on the town kind of thing. I mean, it was
All right.
not a
Yeah.
bad first date if you think about
Yeah.
it.
Throat punch some pigs. It's
Yeah,
good. I mean,
he
you
pledged
can't,
his life to her, and her in return. I
I,
mean, come on.
I know
This,
you can't really ask for more than her to say, I think I'll tag along. I
yeah.
mean, if you don't need reassurance I don't know what else you need if you're not getting it from that. It's great.
Iacona 23 says this episode really explained Fett's motivation for being a ruler on Tatooine, as well as his strategy of building the tribe of people who are loyal to him. I love the character building. Yeah, and and that's exactly right, because this is the payoff we've been getting. We've been kind of hinting at it. I guess they've been hinting at it. We've been, I think, reading between the lines and trying to pick up on those beats. But it did look like this is where he was ultimately going. I think there were some things that, for the most part, we got most of it right in terms of kind of where he was headed. But there's some little things that still have not happened. I'm still holding my fingers and waiting for it to maybe happen. But for the most part, yeah, it's very clear now for a lot of, in my mind, maybe with the last episode first, but definitely this was kind of reaffirmation of what exactly his motivation, what is he trying to do, how much of a changed person he is. I think that we got some pretty candid moments with him, especially with the bantha, which we'll get to here in a little bit.
That was my only ugly moment.
I was gonna have to. I have bantha tongue as my ugly moment, but
Well, and just the chewing.
well, let's get to that, because I want to talk about the chewing. We're gonna break down the chewing of the bantha tonight.
Let's talk about the bicuspids of a bantha that eats. Clearly, the flat teeth indicate eating plant life.
Exactly.
Not eating meat. Yeah.
You looked at the notes. Did you not?
I didn't. I swear to
okay.
God, I did. I just remember like 8th grade science.
Yes. Yeah. Herbivores have the flat teeth. Carnivores have the more spiky teeth. Right. This clearly is a herbivore, but then I thought, well, where the heck is he finding any kind of, fauna, vegetation for, or fauna? Which one's
fauna.
Vegetation?
Yeah. Fauna,
yeah. Where is he finding this? And we've seen a tree, and that's about it. So yeah, we'll get to, you missed the beanie, Ash. Sorry. Ash is asking where my beanie's at. I had it on earlier, and it just didn't look right with the glasses and my headphones. I look like a hot mess. Like I just came out, like woke out of bed and jumped in and started to do a podcast. So
there you go. I'll represent. It's fine.
There you go. What a shill. What a shill. Okay. Did you have anything else for the ugly?
No, it was definitely the wide open mouth and just the weird animatronics on the bantha just didn't work for me.
So that wasn't like endearing. I mean,
the relationship aspect of it, so the emotional side of it, yeah, it was definitely there, but the visual of it was just ridiculous. I mean, it just wasn't good. I'm sorry.
It was very Muppets, like circa 79 Muppet show, which I didn't, I guess I don't have a problem with, because for some reason that, you think about the puppetry of Yoda in Empire Strikes Back, right? Yeah. And how much Frank Oz was able to kind of, he did so well in forcing you to see past it. You'd have no choice. You could see right past the puppeteering. But then it didn't always work. There were other characters that didn't work as well. Jabba is a good example. I think Jabba has scenes in Return of the Jedi that work really well, and then other scenes where it's like, it's a puppet with 4 little people in there moving stuff around. I mean, it's kind of sticks out.
It's still odd that it worked so much better than the CGI.
All right. Well, we'll break down the bantha cud here in a little bit. Okay, so let's do this. I've got. I'm going to pull up the pictures that I took, so we can go through our screenshots and get flagged by Disney, which happens every single week. By the way, we're still undefeated, though. I dispute this thing every single week, and I plan on doing it again here a little bit later tonight.
We should. If we were if we were those people, we would definitely display how successfully are we at not violating terms.
3 average sized men, except the guy in the very back working the tail. That was I forget his name, but he was a little person.
Yeah, we can call him Houdini.
he would sit there and grind the tail to make it move.
What a terrible job.
The Gathering Storm, and I couldn't help but think of the Rising Storm when this title was introduced. But,
right. Yeah.
I mean, Rising Storm, Gathering Storm.
And when we looked at the High Republic 13, it just
okay, we're not going into that.
We can't go there.
Not yet.
Man, I want to talk about High Republic 13 so bad.
Another show. Let's see. So here we are in the Nook of Boba Fett once again.
Yeah.
And so we got right into the dream sequences, which is fine. Like I said, I mean, now, it's so funny. 3 episodes ago, whenever I saw that, I'm like, oh, okay, I guess we're going back into the, background or back in time. But now it's like, oh, cool. We're going back in time. I kind of want to see. And I was glad they picked up, like right after, that had all, the Tuscans were all murdered and killed.
Right.
Here was a moment too, but just again, on the technical side, this was one of the few moments when you can almost see it in the imagery here, right? If you watch this scene, that background is that video screen.
Yeah.
So he's just up on this like fake propped rock looking into a TV screen and pretending as though he's looking off into the distance. And this one, for whatever reason, it stands out. I don't know if it's just the lighting or that he's in shadow and it's not lit properly in the back or whatever. But
of all the scenes, this was the one I didn't notice as much as some of the others.
Oh yeah, no, I get it. I'm saying, like, it seems like with the darker scenes, it's much more exposed. But with the lighter scenes, it's definitely not. For whatever reason. So either way, it's fine. But yeah, so here he is, and he's gone into. I guess he's at the front there, kind of sizing things up. I thought this was a good moment for him too, because he's on a mission, right? He knows, okay, I need to get my armor back, I need to get my ship back.
Right.
Probably in reverse order there, but I thought it was interesting because right here, after he's had a chance to take a look at it, and he's looking at everybody through the scope, this moment, when you watch his facial expressions, he has almost a look of like defeat.
Yeah,
like,
disappointment.
Yeah, disappointment. Like, there's just no way I'm going to be able to get in here by myself. And this comes up later on when he's talking about I'm not as threatening as with the as I am with the armor. So he almost feels like if he had the armor, he probably could go in and get a ship on his own, but he doesn't. And so now he's like, well, what the heck am I supposed to do? I have nobody else right now.
He could do it more directly at the very least, right?
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, too many guards. I want to ask you something too, and this was not the best picture. There was one that happened in the same scene here when he's looking through the scope, and you see that very first Gamorrean guard. That Gamorrean guard looks a little bit more heavier than the ones that we're used to seeing, and he looks like they've all got the same outfits as Jabba, but there was and later on when I show a picture of the Gamorrean guards up close, at least these guys that are in Jabba's palace, one, I wasn't able to tell if these were the same Gamorrean guards that he's now hired.
I knew this was going to come up.
Well, that's one thing. The other is the facial, the face itself has been changed, and it changed for Mandalorian. It's staying consistent here with the Book of Boba Fett. But yeah, I kind of want to get your thoughts on whether or not, because I always thought, well, the ones at Jabba's palace during Return of the Jedi were just eating constantly thanks to the chef droid and the sous chef droid that were there.
Right.
And that's why they looked as big as they did. And the ones that we saw in the little combat scene in The Mandalorian were much more thin, leaner, and that sort of thing. But there's actually some facial reconstruction that happened with the Gamorrean guards. And it's not a point of contention for me, but I just kind of want to get your thoughts on it. And maybe we'll come back to that when we get to that picture. I have a really good close-up of them. So I don't really have a point there.
I'm confused. Do you want me to say something now or later?
No. Now I've just changed my mind. You lost me. Okay.
I lost you. All right.
Here's where he comes back to the Bantha, and he's
girl
talking to her. Did we get the Bantha tongue here in this scene? No, it was just it's a little bit later here. But he does make that comment about without my armor, I'm less persuasive. So
no, he said that to Fennec
Was
later
it?
on. Yeah.
Okay, I thought Oh, that's right. I had it in the show notes because I guess I was trying to tie that look that he had, right? That disappointment look or disappointing look that he had in his face. Here's where he goes back in, and we're going to get into Teeth Gate, or I don't know what you want to call it.
Bicuspid Gate.
Yeah. So he's chewing. He's got this meat.
Yeah, I guess that's a scurrier is what he calls it.
Yeah, he called it a little bit later. Yeah. Okay, so the process of which cows chew, swallow, and then chew again to swallow is called rumination, right?
Right.
And it's or called chewing the cud is another
chewing
term.
the cud, which is funny because rumination means something totally different to humans. But yeah.
Oh yeah, no, for real.
Yeah.
And I'm totally kidding. So we're losing viewers already. Okay. But
We've
I was
gone up on viewers. What are you talking about?
right. This is the stuff you've tuned in for. We're going to
Exactly.
dissect the teeth. But no, for real, like the teeth, I was like, whoa, wait a second. He's got like herbivore teeth, and yet he's feeding them meat. So it's really not a big deal. I think the key takeaway here is bantha tongue is pretty big and sticky and disgusting. But I like these moments. Like if you're a pet lover, this was a good scene for you. Like you had this moment and him, hugging on her a little bit later, and then he, feeds the scraps down to the rancor. But it's a very pet lover kind of episode. So
Right. So the most ridiculous part about it was, that tongue is like way too like vertical, first of all, but also like the piece of meat was so small, the bantha didn't really need to chew. It just like went straight down the gullet.
it just yeah,
There was no chewing necessary. It just inhaled it,
it chucked
and
it
we
right down
were all
through.
done. Yeah.
Yeah. But they
Tune
had to
in
get the
next week.
chewing. You had to get the chewing effect in there, which
Right,
it was.
yeah.
I don't know. Again, and you watch that, it is very kind of like mechanical and very puppeteerish. That's not a word.
Right. So if we would have been like, okay, we did these things, but it wasn't so grotesquely obvious and over exaggerated, it would have been fine.
Yeah.
But this was just too over the top for me. But tune in next week for the bantha breakdown.
Yeah, we'll break a lot of stuff here.
And yeah, we're getting called out for not spending much time in the woods. Albert spends all his time in the woods.
I am always in the woods. People
He
don't know
is.
that about me, but I really am.
He really is. He's a Boy Scout. He's a scout troop leader.
So this is Lauren says it was cute. Gary
It
says
was sweet. It was very sweet with the bantha though.
Yeah, this is where if Mike's listening right now, he would have turned it off by now. This is the stuff he hates. Like, he cannot stand this stuff when Star Wars gets cutesy or sweetie or whatever you want to call that.
But it's important. I mean, this is the stuff that's, important, right? Like a boy and his bantha.
Yep. Boy and his bantha. Gary says, from a certain point of view, story with the bantha would be great. Yeah.
Don't encourage people.
That's a good idea. Like, what if they did a certain point of view for Mando / Book of Boba Fett, right? And had little off stories. I'd be down with that.
I don't know what they would do with this. I'm afraid what DJO would do with this, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Right.
Because he tends to be a little out there.
What did you think about the tail wagging? Again, another, dog sees the food, starts wagging its tail. Come on.
Can we just move on?
Okay, fine. We'll move on from this episode. Okay, the scene. So,
so now we get the tie-in, right?
Yes, now we get the tie-in. I was like, oh, look at that. Those are the flares. So if you remember, these are the flares that were being shot up to kind of distract Fennec Shan.
This was the first moment where I was disoriented. I'm like, well, what is that? Because has enough time went by that we are now aligned with the Mandalorian? Well, in season 2 of the Mandalorian, right?
Yeah.
So that was a.
So we're 5 years at this point away.
Right. Yeah. And this is where I think some of the complaints have come, where it wasn't really clear what the time jump was, or that it had really been this long. And it wasn't until later that, Bo actually says it, which I think was important to say when he's talking with, about the Sarlacc, that, all those years ago he was stuck down there. And, based on what we've seen, it certainly did not feel like it's been that long.
So do you think he spent more time with the Tuskens? Or do you think he spent more time alone?
No, I mean, it's with the Tuskens, yeah.
I would think so too, right? It would make sense, I guess, if he was with the all alone, because that, he would have been wandering the desert for years before he decided about, maybe go check in on Jabba and see if he can get the ship back. So
it would mean a lot more, right, if he had spent that much time with them and really been invited into their culture and lived their culture for years, that he would have that experience and that he would have that connection with them. So, but yeah, it's a little odd. Yeah. And I think, season 1, episode 5 was the gunslinger, and that's when this was. But yeah, it was still a little bit disorienting. I'm like, it can't be that far already, can it? But sure enough, I mean, and again, it makes sense. He's getting a ship, which you would expect to be a little bit closer to the events of the Mandalorian, but still, it was a little disorienting there for a little bit.
Risk says Maul did that, and I think he's talking about wandering the desert for years. Kenobi, looking for him the entire time.
Obi-Wan.
And they played the Mando flute. I don't know if that's really or a little bit sound a little bit there at that moment, right? To kind of say, oh, look, here's that scene, and we get that later on, which we're gonna get into. Don't worry. But I did like this. I didn't get a chance. I want to go back and look to see whether or not this was a recreation
Yeah.
of that shot, or if this was the action, if they just lifted the footage and put it in here just to kind of hit it home harder. But either way,
Well, I thought, and if I remember right, you and Mike talking about this of you could hear the spurs.
mm-hmm.
But when you
in
go
the
back
in
and
the
look at it,
original one, yeah,
but there are no spurs. He's not wearing any spurs at all
Yeah.
in that scene, right?
yeah,
But I did not hear any of that this time around. Though. There was
nope,
no jingling type of sound.
nope. There is not.
So
I don't know if I have
this
a
was
problem
newly.
with that. Though,
I almost think this was newly recorded.
True. And I don't remember if we ever. I need to go back and look at that episode again. I cannot recall if we actually saw the heels of the boots that he was walking with to see. That would have been a dead giveaway, right? And I don't.
I want
remember
to
that
say
at
it was a
all.
lot closer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
closer up. So this has definitely been a reshoot, then I would say. But this is where he definitely, he walks up on Fennec Shan, sees
He's like,
her
"Hey,
being left for
almost
dead.
dead woman. I should revive her with some mod parlor parts." Like every other person. But it's clear that he recognizes who this is, though, right?
Yes.
And so he sees the promise in Fennec Shan and is willing to take that chance on her.
Well, and he's kind of paying it forward too. I mean, he was
Yeah.
left for dead in the desert and was rescued, and he's now kind of returning the favor here. So
Yeah.
all of that makes sense. Although I do think he probably had intentions of at least, because later on when he says, I don't want money for as far as paying off your debt, he's got bigger plans here.
Right.
And he's trying to figure out how she fits into those plans along with him. So this is them heading up to the mod area, which is apparently just outside of Tatooine. I'm sorry, of Mos Eisley.
Yeah.
And this is where we get the
I
mods.
love this girl with the red eyes and stuff.
Yeah, I called her Red Eyes, and I called this one Patch. And then we had
who's your boy?
Yeah, this is Eye Exam. And then there was another guy. I don't have a picture of him. The other guy, I called him Stranger Days because he's got like a squid, and this is another reference. It's a 90s movie at least, but in Stranger Days, there was a thing that they had put on their head, and he kind of looked like that. So I don't know if they're going to... You think these guys are going to come back? Like, they held on this guy a little too long, in my opinion.
I think it was just the uniqueness of it. I think we won't see any of these guys again.
Okay. So they spent all the money on the CGI, and we're going to make sure you see it.
Right. It was like one of these, like, what the hell am I looking at?
So yeah, these are, and then they've got the colored bikes again.
Yeah,
I did consistent with all that.
Yeah, I did see the consistency there, so it must be a thing.
Yeah, here he is bringing her in, and this is, I know there's been some feedback. There's been people saying they didn't like this, the aesthetics of this scene.
Really?
Yeah, the interior, the music. I know you said you liked the music. Some folks said it didn't sound like Star Wars. And so here's what I would say, and I don't want to get on a soapbox because I can get on a very large soapbox about this.
You have that talent about you, yes.
Yeah, it's an error, right? But so when someone says it doesn't feel like Star Wars, my response, very professionally and sincerely, is it's not really what Star Wars means to you is so vastly different than everybody else, and a lot of it comes from our own experiences. When did we come into Star Wars? What have we grown up with in science fantasy and science fiction? What have our influences been? And I'm being totally serious here. There's so many things that go into what Star Wars feels like for a lot of people. And it's very easy to say, well, Star Wars is always John Williams, George Lucas, and like some kind of a dirty aesthetic for Tatooine rebels and all that. And very clean for this. I mean, I get it. There's certain things that are kind of there that have been staples. But that's putting Star Wars in such a small component, right? Or small compartment. And when you start venturing out and branching out into the other mediums outside of the movies, you start to see that this stuff is really not any different, right? Clone Wars was a good example of that. There's so many things that, because George Lucas came up with it, we just accepted blindly that, oh, that's Star Wars, right? Even though it doesn't look like anything else that we've seen, right?
Right.
But because it was from Lucas, that is Star Wars now. And there's really no difference here. The world, the galaxy, the universe of Star Wars is so vast and so huge that when you start branching out into the comic books, into the books themselves, you look at a lot of the animation. Even if you look at even like a Bad Batch, right? There were certain things in there that looked maybe a little bit out of place or didn't look right or feel right. But to say that Star Wars is like 5 things, it's just not fair. It's such a huge galaxy, and there's so many more characters and so much more going on. The Last Jedi is another good example, right? When we got to, what's the planet? The scene that everybody hates, the chase scene. in The Last Jedi. Drawing a blank on name. Anyways, that whole setup with the really rich people and just that
Canto
look.
Bites.
Yeah, and Canto Bite, right? That was a lot of people had a problem with that because it didn't look Star Warsy. And I don't know. That's my soapbox. Is just keep an open mind about this, right? It's a much much bigger galaxy than you think it really is. So
Please send your complaints to cantinacastfanmail@gmail.com.
yep.
But again, if this was on Coruscant, we wouldn't probably think twice about
Nope.
it.
Or
Yeah.
go down into the underground, right? Of Coruscant.
Yeah.
Go down to level 1300 or 1313 or whatever level down there where all the scum and villainy live. This is what it looks like.
Right. I mean, so it's only that it's on Tatooine that it's so out of place, and I get that. I mean, it's not surprising that people feel this way.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at the same time, that there's not a separate culture on each planet that is completely different, from a way of thinking and a lifestyle, totally different than what's you've seen normally. Shouldn't be surprising. We see this in our own towns and cities all the time if you look hard enough. And
Mhm.
sometimes you don't really have to look that hard. You just have to stop not looking,
Yep.
and avoiding it. And so I thought it was, but again, I just thought it was cool. I liked the acting in it. I thought Thundercat was actually really cool, the way that he delivered the lines and stuff. And I just thought it was cool. I don't know why I liked it so much, but to me, it felt like Star Wars because we know that people have, artificial limbs. So why they wouldn't want to do this as a matter of practice or as like any different than getting a tattoo, it shouldn't be. To me, it's not surprising that people really want to get into this type of thing and they really feel like this is part of who they are and what they want to be. And again, some of it's expression and some of it's just being different too, and kind of going against the grain. But I thought it was cool, and I thought it fit the scene perfectly, right? So how else would you bring Fennec Shand back to life?
Yeah.
Is kind of the argument I'd put. Like, you're not going to go and find on Tatooine of all places. And so I think something like this makes so much sense that you would go to this kind of underground culture of sorts in order to preserve her life and basically resurrect her from a fatal wound. It just makes a lot of sense to me. And again, I thought it was fun. I thought it was just cool. And the music was good. It was different, but it was good. I thought it was just great. I really enjoyed it.
It sounded like something from like Prodigy, the group.
It really did
Prodigy.
sound like Prodigy. Glad you said that. Yeah,
there
it
you
definitely
go.
sounded like it.
Another 90s reference for those of you playing at home.
Right.
Yeah,
your bingo card.
Yeah, and your bingo card. So we'll get to Thundercat here in a second, but I guess this is the equivalent of a Star Wars tramp stamp of some sort. I don't know. I'm not sure what was going on here.
Actually, I thought Dr. Octopus, right, with the from the original Spider-Man trilogy.
Oh, did he have that on the back of him?
Yeah,
Oh,
he had
right.
that little thing on the back of his neck to be able to control the arms.
Yeah,
That got fried, like the little chip.
maybe that's what they were going for.
Maybe.
There's Thundercat. So anybody that doesn't know who Thundercat is, very quickly, he is a musician.
He's a bass player, actually.
He's a bass player. Well, yeah, he is. I mean, that's where he kind of hung his hat or cut his teeth on was bass playing. I know him from Suicidal Tendencies, which was a band that I liked in the 80s and 90s. That was one of his first. He didn't come into that band until the 90s.
I was about to say, I don't remember him as part of it. Maybe
not of the original group. In fact, I think only the lead singer, is it Mike Moyer? I forget his name, but the lead singer is the only. What's that?
You're the only one that knows.
Okay, so that lead singer, he's the only one that's still an existing member, and they've had a number of people cycle out over the years, over the course of almost 40 years now that they've had this band around. But he was in there for a brief part of it, and that's where I first knew him from. I did not know he went on to do other music. In fact, he was I wouldn't listen to after I saw this, and I went out and listened to his 2020 album. It's an R&B album, and it's really good. Like, I actually really enjoyed it. It was nominated for a Grammy. He didn't win. But yeah, I mean,
It Is What It Is, I think.
Yeah, It Is What It Is the name of the album.
It's actually pretty good. And he sings on it and everything. Yeah, it's not bad.
Now, the question is, though, the lead that I think is being buried here is, how did he get involved in this show, right? So for that, our buddy J.R. Eaton, I don't think he's on here now. He's been on the show, or at least he's come on to the comments before, and he's a huge supporter of the Basement Show that used to exist. But he mentioned that when this guy put out his album, I don't know if it was his last album or an album before, Ludwig is the guy that he actually helped him. The guy that does the music for this and Mandalorian helped him with that. And so that's kind of how they got connected.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
I don't know if it's official or unofficial, but there's definitely a relationship between him and Ludwig, and that's probably how he got this role into Star Wars. So background information, if you, for what it's worth, there on why this guy is why he's here and who he is. Okay,
Right.
so
I love the writing here, though. I mean, no walk-ins, appointment only. I just thought it
yep.
was just, we look at like what we're dealing with these days. It's just so appropriate.
Mhm.
When you walk into a doctor's office, you have no availability for a walk-in, and it just, but you slap some credits down. It's like, why didn't you say so?
Yeah, I mean that was the look right here. He's kind of smirking, like,
Yeah. Why didn't you leave with that?
should have started off with that. This is where we get the montage stuff going on. He's got different cable back here, different reels of I don't know, Cat 5 or whatever the heck that is, speaker wire.
Right.
Poor Fennec, like no like anesthetic whatsoever. Yeah, I don't know. It's Star Wars. I was thinking maybe they'll hook her up to a back to tank or some medical droid will roll out or something, but no.
You got to feel it all.
Yeah, you really
It's part of
do.
the experience.
Here's where he takes off his oven mitt of a hand, and he puts on his attack. What was the He-Man figure that wasn't there when was it Fisto? I know Fisto's hand would come off.
Oh, Trapjaw.
Trapjaw, that's it.
Oh.
That's what I was thinking here. Trapjaw. There you go. Another 80s reference. Look at this. Look at Risk. She's already dead anyway.
Oh, she was almost dead. Although
She's
we
almost
called her,
dead.
I remember saying she's dead, Jim, like 1,000 times.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was right, sort of, for a while until they brought her back from the dead. Ish.
I like the Lee press-on nails here that he's got.
That was impressive-ish.
And then the pistons, they were kind of like pistons or not pistons. What do you call those? Hydraulics?
Yeah.
Hydraulic pistons, whatever.
So, yeah, apparently just plug and play hydraulics. Yeah.
Sorry, Thundercat paw. That's what he had, a paw instead of a hand. And then here's the coaxial. What's it?
Coaxial. She's got some hyperdrive fluid running through
hyperdrive fluid right there. A little brake fluid kind of running right here. I don't know what these were supposed to be. I guess that's blood.
Keeps all the things lubricated. I guess that's blood. Yeah.
Yeah. I did like how he was, Boba Fett asked him here, he's like, aren't you going to like seal her up? And he's like, no, man, why would you do that? Like, that's
all that beautiful machinery.
Yeah. It's like, it's like tattoo artwork, right? You get that done. You don't want to cover it up. I mean, what's the whole point? I mean, unless you're going to a job and you don't want to get fired and all that. But outside of that, yeah, you kind of wear that proudly. This is what they're all about. It's like you get these mods, you want people to see them, you want to draw attention. That's why Eye Exam got the big goggles.
That's the culture, right? Yeah,
exactly. Okay, well, they get back over here. It's funny because it looks like he took her back to the original spot.
Right. He quickly takes her back to the middle of the desert to recover.
Yeah. Like nothing happened here. You're just now waking up. Trust me.
Right.
Wait till she sees her abdomen.
I know. Why doesn't she snuggle with the banta?
I guess it doesn't get that cold here on Tatooine. So where are we at? Oh, he gives her the black melons. I want to ask you about that too. A theory that I have. It's not a big one. It's a small one. But we've been talking about, there feels like there's been this consistent disconnect with how he's been able to seem just fine in the past, right? In those sequences. And yet when we go to the present day, he's, winded and he's got to go back to the back to tank and that sort of thing. Do you feel like they were trying to explain that while he was on Tatooine with the Sand People, because of the properties of these black melons and how they can heal you, right? He makes that comment. I don't know if I got the exact wording in here. I wrote it down or not.
Yeah. It'll aid in the recovery, basically.
It has healing properties, is what he said.
Well, he didn't say healing properties, but it will help. It will help her recovery or speed her recovery.
So I interpreted that as, okay, well then this is how they're explaining. If he's on a constant diet of this as he was with the Tusken Raiders, then maybe he wasn't always feeling the ill effects as quickly or at all of having been in the Sarlacc pit. And then once he made his way out and he was out of that area and now in Slave One and running around with, Mando and all that, now he has to have the Bacta because he doesn't have a supply of these black melons coming in. Yes or no? Crazy?
Well, I mean, when you're sick, they tell you to drink lots of water too, but I don't think water has healing properties effectively. So I don't know that it's exactly the same, but maybe I'll give you a maybe. How about that?
Okay. I'll take a maybe.
Yeah, I'll give you a maybe. I think it's something like, it's not bad for you. It's a milk, right? It's not a water, it's a milk.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so there might be some sort of nutrients in or some sort of vitamin that does promote healing, but maybe doesn't cause healing, but promotes and enables it. So We'll go with that.
Now, so here's a question. Ash says, when she eats food, where does it go?
Well, yeah.
I know
Maybe
where it
there's-
comes out of. I
there's-
don't.
There's guts behind all the parts, maybe.
That's a good question.
Right. This is why she'll eat sparingly.
Does she get hungry?
We haven't explored that yet, so that's going to be the fanfic that you're going to go find after the show.
Yeah. I mean, she's eating in like a couple episodes, or in a couple episodes ago, she was sitting there chowing down on food, right?
Right.
So,
yeah.
I
Well, I
don't
mean,
know.
that makes sense because I mean, your brain and your heart, everything needs energy, and to break it down from food, and you can't just lubricate her parts and expect her to run. So she still needs gas. So it's good. Well, gasoline.
Yeah. I think Riss said it was 5W30 full
More like
synthetic,
a good 10-20 synthetic. Yeah,
20 synthetic. She does a blend.
a blend.
I bet she's a monster at like sit-ups and things like that.
She probably is. She probably breaks some world records.
Okay, before we get too crazy here. All right, so getting back on track here. She definitely looks shocked and surprised by the mod. So, I mean, if I'm Fennec Shan, I'm like waking up thinking, oh, I just got knocked out, or, all that I just got shot. And then she wakes up and here she is with this dude who she doesn't immediately recognize. And she's got her, I mean, she feels like I would feel violated. I mean, she's got her guts gone and she's got all these robotic parts. And she's almost got this look on her face like, okay, you did this to me. You definitely want something,
Bubba's like, you're welcome.
Yeah. No good deed goes unpunished.
Right.
But yeah, she looked a little shocked and surprised. I was trying to think, was there any other, like you said earlier, was this really the only course that he had was to go get her modded? I mean, didn't feel like there was anywhere he could take her medically to go get fixed up.
Options were pretty limited, right?
Yeah. So, okay, she makes that comment, but I take it I'm worth more alive.
Yeah, she thought there was a bounty. Yeah, I mean, she thought he was going to collect a bounty. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because she even says, I'll double whatever your bounty is.
Funny how that's always the first thing out of someone's mouth.
Well, money talks, man. I mean, we saw that firsthand here.
Hey,
there's a lot of things that he does with money.
Yeah, play to people's greed, right?
Mm-hmm.
See where it takes you.
When he said, I don't want money, she gets this kind of creepy look on his face. Like,
I know,
oh,
right?
boy.
I was like, oh, God.
Yep, not this guy. I thought it was interesting that he introduced himself when he did introduce himself as Boba Fett, and she made the comment about, nah, he's dead, right? That legend's gone, that kind of thing.
Right.
And we get the whole thing about, being left for dead.
The sense of Tatooine.
How the Sand People treated him like their own. Of course, they chained him up, beat him with sticks and
right.
all that, but whatever.
A little revisionist history, but
yeah,
more or less accurate, right?
I think we call that Stockholm syndrome, but that could be just me.
Right.
I mean, maybe
they were my
nitpicking.
family. They were good.
Yeah.
They were.
We've all got that weird uncle. I mean, yeah. And then he mentions, so then he is feeling a lot of regret or remorse for the fact that he feels like he's the reason why they all died. Like he went to go try to help the Tusken Raiders.
Right.
And when you look at it from his perspective, it kind of is right? He wouldn't pick the fight. And really wasn't, I don't know if he felt like he was in a position to, I don't know if he thought everything through, right? He was just thinking, okay, they've attacked me. I'm going to go get vengeance and set things right. And then next thing you know, they're all dead, which she makes a very interesting comment here about saying, a speeder bike gang took out a Tusken Raiders. Like, come on, that's not even possible, right?
Right. And he knows that. I mean, he knows that it's something bigger than that, right?
Yeah, and I think yes. I think I hope he knows. I don't know if this was written though.
He didn't argue it at the very least.
True. He did not argue it. I guess where I was going to ask is whether or not we think, so do you think those Kenton writers were responsible, or do you think it could be one of three things, I guess, right? The Kenton writers were the only ones that did it. I don't believe that at all. Right? I believe Fennec Shan. There's no way they could have killed all those Tusken Raiders. Okay.
Right.
Option 2, the Kenton writers go there, but they are being supported or assisted in some way, financially, whatever,
Right.
by a larger organization, which I think is kind of the path that we were going down originally
Yeah.
with those
The
guys,
Pikes.
the
Right.
Pikes, or I don't
The
know,
Pikes. Yeah.
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 And then option 3 would be that they never even went into that base. Like they never
Right.
did. It was some other entity that went in there, killed all the Tusken Raiders. Why, I don't know. It doesn't may not really make sense as I'm talking through this now. But they went in there and then just tagged the tents and framed, I guess, the Kenton Riders as being the group responsible for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
If
I
you
mean,
had
it's
to pick one, which one would you go with?
probably option B, where it's a blend of the two, where they were enabled and they were funded in order to be able to do it. I mean, it doesn't make sense, right? I mean, the way that the Pikes put it to Boba was that, look, we've already paid blood money to them, right? We've already paid protection money to the Kenton Striders. Why are we going to pay you too? So
Mhm.
there was clearly a competition now. And so it was a matter of who was going to wipe who out first. So that the Kenton Striders would want to strike first and take care of their competition makes a lot of sense. Now, the Pikes could step in and say, okay, well, who do we find is the bigger threat? Who is more difficult to control? And I have a feeling that they probably thought the Tuscans and whoever this guy is in front of them all of a sudden, making them more civilized and more organized is probably a much greater threat than what we're facing with these knuckleheads that can't think for themselves and they're just looking for the next drink at the next bar kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Right. And so I think it's something in the middle there of those two. And Fennec understands that pretty quickly, right? She's, while they had the machinery and the bikes, the Tuscans aren't without their ability. I mean, they're fantastic snipers, apparently, right? I mean, we
Yeah.
know they
Yeah.
can shoot. But but is it Boba's fault that they were at this? I don't agree with that. I don't think that's the case at all. I don't know if that's what you're saying, but I just don't think that's the case at all because they were getting picked off left and right anytime this train came by, and they're just defending themselves effectively.
Hmm.
Well, in that case, they were defending themselves. Maybe they've taken pot shots at it before, but it's a heavily armored train.
Yeah.
What do you we talked about this? What are you worried about, right? Just close the windows and you'll be fine. Everything ricochets off. But yeah, Boba seems to take some amount of responsibility for it when in reality he was just trying to get them what they were due. And yeah, unfortunately had dire consequences for his tribe.
And I don't believe it's his fault either. Like I think he's being way too hard on himself. I think he's just kind of lost in the moment, and he's had a number of setbacks now at this point. Some huge setbacks.
So I'll say it was his fault to an extent, right? He tried to extend the Tuscans further than what they were probably capable of or capable of handling, from a technological and everything else standpoint.
Right.
Right.
They could easily be outgunned. They're because they are primitive people still,
They definitely are primitive in most ways, right?
Right. Where he went wrong is he chose to ride a bantha, which took him 2 weeks to get there, another 2 weeks to get back. So in the time that month passed,
well, that was the multiple years that
right,
that we were missing here, right?
So quickly on the banthas, like I love the banthas even more than I ever have now because of this show. But my gosh, they are so frustratingly slow. It's like I think of, would it help if I got out and pushed? I think that every time I see these banthas, and I'm thinking, okay, maybe off camera, right? We only see the bantha after it's been running, full stride, 80 miles an hour for several hours, and we're just getting the cool down of the bantha. So that's why it looks like it's, traversing the desert very slowly. But really, we don't get to see how fast they move off screen. So
right.
That's how I'm kind of rationalizing it. But I just don't understand why they ride these things. Just walk, man. Okay. He mentions that he needs help to go get his fire spray gunship. I'm not gonna. I mean,
we're gonna spend any time on this one.
No, I mean, I keep using. I've been calling it Slave One.
It was capitalized in the subtitles.
Yeah, I mean, it's a class of a ship.
It's a proper noun. Right.
Yeah. The only beef I have with people is there's a group of people out there that constantly keep bringing up the fact that Disney somehow has given the name Fire Spray in lieu of Slave One. And I posted something on Twitter today. and
this is literally like 20 years old, right?
Oh, it's older. So in 1996,
right,
West End Games released the Galaxy Guide Volume 3, which covers all of the Empire Strikes Back references in there.
Right.
And if you go into the section of the bounty hunters and you go into Boba Fett specifically, there is a passage in there that talks about the ship that he has and the Fire Spray class ship. That name was given to before Disney had anything to do with it, was already in there. They're just using the name that it's always been given. It's still called Slave One. It's still the class of the ship is the Fire Spray, and you can use them interchangeably as far as I'm concerned. I don't really have a problem if you want to use one or the other, because I think we may not see Boba Fett do it on the show. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe we will. I don't really care. But to say that Disney gave him that name is just absurd. They don't, you got whoever that, those people, and you know who you are because you're not listening to the show. Should know that is not something that Disney concocted, right? That's been out there for years. We've known that was the class of ship that Boba was flying around in. So.
Well, and if you're going to describe your ship to someone, now Slave One might be galaxy wide known, right? That's possible.
Yeah.
But if you're going to say what your ship is and you're going to describe it, like I'm not going to say that it's my car is called a Asajj Ventress. So that's what my Accord, I named it Ventress, right? But because it was a black on black Accord, it's fantastic.
Nerd.
Well, yes, but I would tell you, no, it's a 2017 Honda Accord. It's black, right? I'm not going to tell you it's Ventress.
Right. It's Ventress.
Right. You're not going to know that, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's funny to me that this is the things we get. And it's called it had a number with it too, like Fire Spray 32 or something, if I remember right, or something to that effect. And it's just amusing to me that we get caught up on this kind of stuff when you can name a type of ship any day you want, anything you want. And you know what? Some people call it multiple things. They change it over time.
Yeah.
It's okay.
My brother's with us in the chat tonight, and I'm going to ask him. Yeah, he's there. Alex, if you remember, post in the chat there if you remember what my first car was called, and I'll just leave it at that. And I'll get if he comes up with it, I'll give you the story, even though you didn't ask for it. If not, we're going to keep on rolling. Okay. And I may have done it. I think I've done it on the basement, not this show. But okay, so he says, I've got to recover my ship. And she says, why not just go ask for it? Which seems like a very logical thing. If it's your ship, but job is not there. It's now Bib Fortuna. And he says, I may not like the answer, right? Meaning that he could very well go in there and say, I want my ship back, and Bib's going to say no, and he's got an army of people. What the heck's he going to do, right? He's going to have to walk away with his tail between his legs.
This is where we get the line where he's less persuasive without his armor, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right where it comes up.
Oh, Alex has responded in chat.
Okay, so this was all right. So I'll make this super quick.
Yeah, side chat.
So the very first vehicle I ever owned, I went out and got. My dad gave me some of the money, but I was already working. I was maybe 16 years old. I was working at SeaWorld, and I got some money enough to buy a 1983 Renault Alliance. And if you've ever seen this car, it looks like it's kind of like a Geo Metro, but not as nice. And what I did is I went to AutoZone and I scraped off the words Renault, and I bought these little decals, these silver decals, and above it I put Rebel. So when I was driving around high school, everybody would load up. My friends in my senior year, we would all say, hey, you want to go to lunch? Let's go to Taco Bell. What do you want to take? I would say, let's take the Rebel Alliance. And so that was the name of my vehicle, right? So I would call it the Rebel Alliance, but to people that I knew. But if anybody else said, hey, what kind of car are you driving? I would say a Renault Alliance. I didn't say the Rebel Alliance because that's really nerdy, like Asajj Ventress. Like, who would do that,
I would just call her Ventress, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
20 minutes later, listen to these guys. Gosh.
I don't know why you're not a normal kid, though. I just called mine the Jonesy Mobile. Like, literally, it was called the Jonesy Mobile. That was my first car in high school.
The Jonesy Mobile.
The Jonesy Mobile. 1988 Mercury Sable Station wagon.
It was a piece of junk windshield. Yeah, now he's gonna start bringing out all the dirt.
Yeah, now we're gonna slug the mud.
I do want to know what if you guys in the chat, and I really sincerely mean this. I want to know what was
your cars.
Yeah,
I want to hear what all the names of your cars are.
Ash says I called my Jeep Farquad.
Farquad is from Shrek.
Oh. Okay, we'll come back to those here in a little bit.
That doesn't count.
So, okay. So he says that, hey, the debt, repaying the debt is basically helping him at this point. So
Right.
they get in on Bantha and head out. So another month later, they finally reach Jabba's palace. This is where I was really getting frustrated because Bantha was moving so slow. I love this shot.
Yeah.
The way that you've got the palace in the background, you've got that trail, that path leading up to it there, which is really great. And this is where we go into that recon too. This is a better picture of that Gamorrean guard that I felt was kind of a little bit looked more like the ones from Return of the Jedi than the ones I think we've been used to here in the last couple of TV series. This is the little droid. We're looking through the perspective here. Looks there's Slave One, fire spray. Oh, sorry, that was through the telescope.
That was through the
The scope or whatever that she was using to look. This was cool. I didn't.
It was a cool little droid. Yeah, I like this thing.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of like reminiscent of Darth Maul's, droids that he sent out. There was a little bit of Phantasm in here, if you've ever seen that movie.
Yes, it was
from the 70s, especially when it was like you could see the first person here when it was kind of running really fast or flying fast and going through the door. It very much reminded me of Phantasm. That Orabesh up there, I translated it translates into quest. If anybody wants to know, so I guess it's on a quest. I guess I don't know.
It's gonna get 2 gold for this mission. And a piece of green gear.
There's and a couple of different shots that we're going through now, just cycling through the pictures of it, kind of making its way through the palace and mapping everything. Here was the one I was talking about. So if you remember in the original Return of the Jedi, the Gamorrean guards had like these really like cheeks that were like
very broad,
bigger than mine. They were like a Bernard, like Saint Bernard kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
And they've almost completely eliminated them here, and the jaw seems like it extends out a little bit further. I actually like this design more for the Gamorrean guards than the other ones, but I don't know, you could just chalk it up to maybe it was a different kind of subspecies of Gamorrean guards, right? These are the guys from the south side of, the planet, and the ones with the flappy jaws are further up north. I don't know.
Well, it's what job you have in the palace, right? So when you're guarding the doors, you tend to just be able to sit there and snack all day.
Yeah. Well, and that was part of it too. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's where like me, when I start eating too much, it starts kind of coming in my face. So, okay. So at this point, this is where they kind of he says goodbye to the Bantha, which I thought she made a good point. Like, you seem pretty confident this is all going to work because you're letting your only mode of transportation go at this point, mine included.
Right.
And this was kind of just that whole dog lover. This is a great look too, by the way, when she's looking at him after that thing licks him and he's getting really, playful and caring with it. And
yeah, she's like, "Who the hell are you, Boba Fett?"
Well, and so this comes back a little bit later because she says, "You've gotten soft."
Yeah,
like
the Tuskens made you soft.
Yeah, and these are the things that she's witnessing. Like, this is Boba Fett. Like, I don't think they had any previous. No, they don't. Well, not that I know of. No,
reputation. It sounds like, yeah.
Yeah, so purely reputation, but I mean, she's probably thinking this is Boba Fett. Like, not at all what I thought, right? And this is more another indicator that this guy is he's very much changed. He's almost loving with that Bantha, like it was a dog or a horse that he was letting go for the to go free and
has emotions and attachments almost, right?
Yeah,
feelings,
making Bantha babies. I like that part. I was laughing when he said
I did laugh at that too. I was like, that was random, but yeah, Boba Fett telling someone to go make babies.
That's where it is right there, where he's kind of pointing off. I wonder if that was ad-libbed or if that was actually in the script.
I kind of thought the same thing. I was like, I wonder if he actually just made that up on the fly.
I liked it. I thought it was great. But he says, "I'm going to miss you too, old girl. Go make Bantha babies." And they kind of sit down and they start talking about these moments too in this episode where they were sitting down and just talking. I know it's not always exciting, but some of the best stuff that we get from Star Wars is in these moments, right? If you think about like Ahsoka and Grogu, where really nothing was said until afterwards, that was a great moment there. Any of the Mando scenes where he's just sitting down and talking to Cara Dune, or sitting down and talking with Grogu.
Yeah, and if you remember when we did the review of the unfinished Clone Wars episodes with Anakin and Obi-Wan, and they were sitting around a fire, and we never got that scene, but that was a really like those emotional scenes of just quiet time, right? And a chance to connect and open yourself up where you wouldn't normally have the opportunity to do it. It was people you normally wouldn't do it with sometimes.
Right. But yeah, I really enjoyed all of this, the conversation. And just another aside, and this is proof that I spent a lot of time in the woods and in front of fires. I don't know what he's doing in this scene, but he's not doing what he should be doing with a fire. I'll just leave it at that. Go watch it again. He's like poking it and moving it around. It's like, dude, that's not what you do. You don't.
Oh, that's what guys that don't know what they're doing are to impress the girl.
Yeah.
Hey,
Oh,
I'm
let me
gonna
take a stick and start
poke
pushing
the
log.
fire.
That's not, dude. That's not what you do with the fire.
All right, Albert, we get it. You know your fire stuff.
Yeah, I know my fire stuff. But yeah, she says it feels like she's, she's trying to feel him out to see if, she wants to stick around, right? She's trying to figure out, okay, what are your plans? What are you looking to do? Because in her way, I mean, she's kind of going through the same thing he has, right? There's almost been a new life that's been given to her. She was left for dead. I think I would agree. Like I thought for sure she had died,
Right.
but it felt like it was going to be a waste of somebody like, Ming Na Wen, and then the fact that we had her in Bad Batch, and so there was obviously there was more to it all, but the in many regards, she's almost kind of a reborn person herself. Now, I don't think she's not definitely not taking the drastic change that
She's not
Boba has.
reformed, right? Yeah.
Right. But I feel like she's got a new lease on life, and she's got kind of the world is her oyster. Even though she's saying, "No, I'm more of a contractor, and I'll work for you, but I really don't want to. I'm not looking to kind of settle down with anybody yet."
Well,
Um,
well, she's feeling and sensing something's different about him, though.
mm,
And I think this is the interesting part when he starts talking about that he's able to offer her something that no other employer would be able to. I thought this was really cool because when he said this, I was like, man, what is it that he could offer her that would matter? It's not a cut in the in the bounty of it all, right?
yeah,
And that its loyalty was it really. And I like how Ming Na Wen played this. Like it struck her as wow, that you're actually right. That is something that has never been an offer on the table because this business is so cutthroat. And the line, I mean, just the lines that Boba is giving about, these are, he's sick of the idiots running things. He's sick
yeah.
of their people. It was interesting, our people, like what that actually meant, right?
Yeah. What? So, just I want your thoughts. Do you have something there? Like what was he referring to?
Well, I mean, I really don't know, to be honest with you, but if you were to take it at face value and say, okay, bounty hunters, but I think he was more just saying, the people that do the work we do are not just grunt workers. We're not just, mercenaries. Like we're actually really good at what we do. We're very smart. It takes a lot to do what we do and do it successfully.
Mhm.
And that we're taking orders from these chumps that are greedy. They sit around, they accumulate their wealth, and they just enjoy the spoils and boss people around and rule by fear and things like that. That's just it makes no sense to Boba. And so I think it was just, he's probably thinking about Dengar specifically, is my guess. He was probably like, you know what, who's the one guy that, gosh, this guy's the best guy I've ever
Oh
worked
my
with.
god, yeah,
It's got to be Dengar. This guy,
yeah,
I would
easily,
work for him in a heartbeat.
right.
But did you have a different take on that?
I mean,
Like, who he was
I
thinking
took
about?
it. No, I took it literally like bounty hunters, and the only reason I did, and I actually got excited when he said that because in my head, right, we talked about in last episode. In my head canon, he's going to call up the bounty hunters, and some that we know, some that we don't know, right? Who knows who's out there? I'd thrown out Gecko as being a possible one since he was featured in the Mandalorian episodes, a couple of them, and he seems to be on this like prolific world tour for that character, doing signings everywhere and trying to get on different shows and really get that character out there, which is fine, good for him. I think he's a Texas guy too, so I'm not throwing shade on him at all. But um, so that we may see somebody like that, that's at least a familiar face from the Mandalorian series. But when he said people like us, I kind of thought he was signaling that he's trying to get all these bounty hunters that are fully capable of doing what they're doing now, or doing more, doing what their bosses are doing, and just taking over. It's like going into the workplace, right? You've got people that are reporting up to people that don't have a clue of how things really run, and they're making you go do these. I mean,
Yeah.
if you've ever worked anywhere, sometimes you get asked to do things that don't make absolutely no sense, and you know better. And at some point, those people that get fed up with it decide, you know what, I'm going to go into business for myself. I'm going to go start my own business. I'm tired of taking orders from somebody that really doesn't have a handle on these things or
Right.
doesn't know as much as I do, and start making my own money. I don't want to work for somebody that way, and that's kind of where he's at now. It's a business proposition in a lot of senses, and that's kind of how he pitches it a little bit later when he's sitting down with all those guys at the table, the heads of the different sects of the clans there in on Mos Espa.
Yeah,
So
this is why people create their own businesses. They get tired of doing what they've been doing and know they're only making so much progress, and they want to do it on their own. They think they do better, and there you go. And you go and recruit the people that you trust and that can do it with you.
yep. And he kind of lays out three things. He wants to find the armor, kill the bloated pig who double crossed me. Is that
What did that mean exactly?
I mean, I guess it was. I assumed it was Bib, right? Because Bib is
what
bloated.
it sounds like. But what did he do?
I don't know.
Double crossed him. I mean, he double crossed him in the comics. I know that much, but I didn't think that this would be something that we would reference from there.
Yeah, I mean, this seems like. I mean, he goes in and just cold-blooded murders him.
Yeah.
So it almost feels like.
negotiation.
Yeah, exactly. So it feels like for some reason he's rationalized the double cross as being I died because of you somehow, and I don't know how to connect those two. Maybe we'll get something there later. I don't know.
Right.
It was a little bit odd for me too that he said that, but nonetheless, it really didn't take away from it. We get it. I'm almost positive he's talking about Bib Fortuna,
Yeah.
and he wanted to take his throne, and of course we see all that at the end of season 2 of The Mandalorian. So and then she ends the scene with a really good line of people like us don't get to decide when we're finished.
Yeah. That seems familiar. Have we
It
heard
does.
something like that before?
Yes, it was. I don't know if it was in Clone Wars or the Bad Batch, but very recently,
Bad Batch.
there was someone says something very similar about. I think it was like soldiers or something. We don't get to make those decisions, but it was very similar, right? The same themes were there. There was another theme too, and apologies if we skipped it. I'm not looking ahead on my show notes here, but there's another line in there where he said there's advantages to people thinking that you're dead, right? And that's the line that we got from Rex in Bad Batch. So. I don't know if you call it part of the cloning process and they have the same thought patterns and stuff, or maybe not. I don't know, but definitely pulling from those same themes here for both of these characters. Okay, well let's keep going here. We get the map readout based on the little droid and its little recon mission, its quest. So they're kind of taking a look at that.
Yeah, they realize how screwed they are.
Yeah, like holy bananas, there's a ton of them. This is very Fallen Order, by the way.
Right.
Okay, so here we go. This
coolest weapon ever, by the way, or the little cutting tool.
Yeah, it was kind of cool. I got a close up of that here a little bit later when she slices the droid's throat, which was funny. For anybody that's wondering, again, back in the old role playing game from the 80s.
Yes,
because I know you've all been wondering this. Right. There actually was an area to get into Jabba's palace. I have the map, and I couldn't find it. I was gonna pull it out to show you. But there is a map of Jabba's palace that came with one of the adventures. I think it was called Tatooine Manhunt. It's not really important, but anyways, there is a little area like this that's got a gate on it, and it's kind of like where the sewage and everything's supposed to run out. So it didn't look like that was exactly what was here, but this is not something they made up for the sake of storytelling, because it was made up for the sake of role-playing game storytelling back in the 80s. So there you go. That was
right. So blame the 80s.
So blame the 80s and blame West End Games for what they created with that. But yeah, this was really cool. Like don't think we've ever seen anything like this. Usually they got to break out some kind of a torch or something,
right,
to cut through it. He was very begrudgingly going into this.
Right.
And I didn't really get that.
I don't know.
What do you think? They were going to knock on the door, or
right? It probably just not his idea of it all. Like, I'm too old for this.
I don't have any armor.
Yeah. All right. Let me just say, I love the kitchen scene. By the way, like, I love the droid that's got all the the butcher knives and all that, and the torture droid, or the whatever the droid was.
Was it 9v9? Was
9v9? Yeah.
This wasn't it though. At least. In the credits, it's listed as a sous chef droid.
Right. Yeah, that's what it says in the.
But that is the same model, and it does sound like him too.
Yeah, it is. I think it's repurposed. Right.
Oh, maybe that's a good point.
But I just love it that they're working in the kitchen now. But he was basically the concierge for torture and for redirecting R2 and other droids for service.
And I didn't get the picture because I didn't get a screenshot. But last week we brought up Ratgate and the people that were upset that there were rats in Star Wars.
Oh my gosh!
Even though we have mouse droids, but yeah, it played into here. Like when they first walk in, there's more rats that are kind of hanging around there, which all is part of it. But I would agree. I enjoyed I enjoyed the way these droids were created. I liked everything about this scene, to be honest, including some of the more obvious calls back to like General Grievous, which I have in just a little bit here.
Right.
That butcher droid. Rob says that butcher droid is in Attack of the Clones. Oh, is it? I had not. Where was that in Attack of Clones?
Yeah, you have to explain that one.
Was it at the diner? In what's his name?
Oh goodness, that was Dex.
Dex. Was it in his diner? I'm sure Rob will tell us. But yeah, his best General Grievous impersonation. Better. This was a better impersonation than that little
and the choo-choo droid,
the train conductor droid 2 episodes ago.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe they'll find each other and find true love.
Maybe. Here's that little device. You can see the close up here. I couldn't tell really what it is. It just looks like a stick, like an EpiPen with 3 needles on it or something.
Right.
But she uses that to cut.
Really, really cool soldering iron.
Yeah. Cuts its head off. I know people had problems with this scene. Some felt like it went too long. Sometimes felt like a little hokey. Maybe.
Where have we seen this droid before, though? We've seen this droid in a bunch of things before, right?
So there was a larger version of a droid that looks very similar to this in one of the sequel trilogies.
Yeah.
But this particular droid has come up in like books, and it's a what do you call it, an LEP droid. And I forget what the acronym is, but that is the rodent droid that runs around and cleans facilities and all that. You can see him come in. He's got like a little, I don't think I've got a picture of it here, but he's got like a little net. Oh, you can see it down here.
Yeah, he's got the rat catching net.
Right,
yeah.
like to catch the rat. But that's where they've been in this for a long time. Sorry, I want to come back to the comments here. Head of lettuce. Good. And Ash brought up that it was in Dex's diner as well. So that for the butcher droid.
Yeah. So supposedly this is just a service droid, by the way. They just do various service tasks.
The LEP droid?
Yeah.
Oh. I only remember it being like a rat catcher, like a rodent catcher in something in one of the stories somewhere. It was in a book. But whatever. Either way, I'm fine with it. Here's that moment you were talking about where he grabs it by the neck.
Do you know who I am? I'm Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool, bro. I'm going to go ahead and turn off.
Yeah. He powers himself down, which we get him show up a little bit later, too.
Yeah. I just kind of imagine the droid saying, here's how much I care. Ooh.
So Rob says he's on the cargo ship that Anakin and Padme ride to Naboo. Oh. Very cool.
That actually, the serving droid. Yes. Yeah, the serving droid. I think that's right. That's where, I think I remember that.
Ash says Clone Wars movie and in a few other episodes. So, nothing new. Shame on me for not paying attention to that droid. I was all about it. Maybe I just wasn't.
You didn't know it was going to come back and play such a vital role later on.
I did not know I needed to love that droid. There was another moment here after this all happens. I thought her look was priceless. She looks at him and she's like, "Can we go now?
Can we go now?
Like, this is ridiculous that we've now gotten." And Alex, I was talking to Alex earlier. He brought up the fact that the whole point of this was going in stealthy, and yet this entire fight breaks out in the the kitchen with pans flying around. And I mean, she's got to be just like,
are you kidding me?
Right. This is ridiculous. You've completely not stuck to the plan again.
But it kind of shows you how Boba Fett operates too, right? He's not
more
really,
of a Han Solo kind of brash, go in and
not really the stealth type. It just kind of go in and take care of business. And that's the irony, right? Because he says he wants to rule with respect versus fear, but Boba Fett and the armor and everything else, he talks about persuasion. That is 100% fear-based tactics.
That's a good point.
Yeah, 100% fear-based tactics.
Intimidation, right?
Yeah.
Seeing this was actually kind of, I wouldn't say emotional for me, but
it was cool.
Definitely cool.
It was very Falcon on Tatooine.
Yeah, good.
Same
good
kind
point.
of scene.
Yep. We hadn't seen it in so long. I mean, we've seen it in his last. If you get into the storyline, right? If you think about the story, he hasn't seen the ship in 5-6 years at this point. So, kind of a cool reunion that happened there.
Right.
What was I going to mention here about this as well? Oh, well, so I had these out of order. Like this is the first shot where we kind of see it, and then we cut over to Boba Fett. He almost looks like he's tearing up. Did you catch this?
Well, I see it now.
Yeah.
I mean, sure.
Yeah, he got very emotional about that shit.
Yeah.
But if you think about it,
it's
it makes sense.
his
It's his
dad's, right?
Yeah, no, I get it.
How cool
It was like if I saw my Renault Alliance again, this is the exact kind of emotion that it would stir up in me.
Every time I see Ventress, I have to hold back the tears.
Yep. Bebop and Rocksteady, I think.
Yeah, I kept wondering, like, all right, which one of these are the ones that are going to come work for him later?
Well, one of them. So in the ones that work for him, one's got that metal helmet, and the other one's got like the leather skull cap thing. And neither one of them. Oh, okay, sorry. I thought you were. I got excited. I was like, "Oh, Jonesy wants to talk about this. I've been planning this. I've been waiting for this." No.
Let me pull up my second set of notes.
Yeah. I got all Count Dooku there for a second. And so here was a good example, although brief. When we talked about the editing and the pacing of the fight scenes that we haven't been, stellar, I guess. This was a good example of how you do it, right?
Yeah, this was much better.
Yeah, it was much better. Yeah, you don't get to really see everything, which is fine, but it certainly helps portray that the image or the quickness of the fight itself, right? It seemed like it was much
quick
better
cuts.
put together.
Yeah, quick cuts, different angles with the quick cuts. And when you zoom in on something, there's an action happening. Like, so someone's actually taking a turn after getting hit. So, I mean, those types of things just create the scene and completely change the scene and how you interpret it as you're watching it.
Yep.
But it was really cool. They start to respect each other about how they're fighting, and they both recognize that they're both skilled fighters. And hey, I kind of like you. You kind of like me.
That's what I said. This was all. If Lauren's still here, she's going to be, I don't know, maybe she's in on this ship or not. She ships everybody, I think, as well, like I do. But yeah, this was, like I said, it's like a great first date. They hit it off pretty well.
Yeah.
Okay, the cavalry comes in.
Until he starts destroying everything and not getting them out of there, but yeah.
The cavalry comes in here at this point. They start kind of firing upon them. And I felt like this was a good moment for Fennec. Like, she really got to shine here. She got to, and she's had many moments now in this series, in The Mandalorian, in the Bad Batch as well. Right. So it was just kind of par for course. We got to see the 4-legged gonk droid. I thought was kind of cool.
Well,
just before this happened. Yeah, and we're just kind of cycling through now some of the shots of this whole action sequence, I thought, again, was really done really well for editing and keeping the pace going.
It was probably the best overall action sequence we've had so far.
Yeah. Love when the jets fired up. That was really cool. Seeing them. Just the sound of Slave One is really awesome.
Right.
And then we had this moment. You can't really tell here on the screenshot, but this is where he's kind of trying to pilot this thing, but he's like ripping up the inside of it. And later on, he talks about, the ship being a little rusty. And I think it was probably him more rusty than the ship.
Well, he's trying to move around and try to shoot the door, I think. But as he's trying to rotate, but he's definitely a little bit rusty with flying, I think, too. But again, the door's not open. So maybe the way that they flew it in is not the way that he's trying to fly it out.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really couldn't tell where the hiccup was on that one. The way she ends this scene, though, is really great, too. She kind of does one of these Black Widow backflips.
Right.
And uses her weight and momentum to throw this dude out. As she then grabs her sniper rifle, hits that counterweight on the door, which drops the door. You can kind of see the blurry the exit there, and then
it gives us the hero pose.
Yeah, that hero pose as the doors close, I thought was really awesome. So I loved everything about this, beginning to end, and how it ended. So, or how it went, I should say. And then I mentioned this in Twitter, I think, or maybe it was in Discord, but I feel like I could just watch Slave One fly around all day long. It was cool that we got some of these shots here. They get back into the ship, and again, more sizing up for her, trying to understand, okay, what are his plans, and he's kind of like, I think he's just, calling her bluff on it and being like, okay, where do you want to be dropped off?
Right.
I know you're going to stick around with me because you see how cool I am now. I've got a ship. Things went really well tonight.
You like my fire spray?
But if you want to get dropped off, that's fine. I can leave you wherever you want to go. And she, of course, says that she's going to stick around just for a little bit. So, and then this was probably one of the highlights of the episode, and we're talking about the fire spray coming up on all of the Kenton riders who have no idea what's coming. I mean, they're just out there for, a Sunday drive out in the desert.
Got to go look at the patch though.
Good look at the patch. I tried to translate this. It was like JLF, and I don't know why. I don't know what that would have been.
Yeah, it might be Easter egg type of thing.
Yeah, maybe his initials or something for the actor. But oh, okay, sorry.
Yep.
Late response because I was doing dishes, but yes, Albert, I am still on the ship as usual. Yes, so yes, she's all in on the ship there. But yeah, this is a great scene, and these guys, I mean, really had no chance, right? And there were some really good moments outside of the fact that it was him getting, revenge, redeeming what had happened, avenging the death of the Tusken Raiders, however you want to look at it. At the end of the day, this look right here tells you everything you need to know.
Exactly.
This is the same kid, and I wanted to post 2 pictures of where he's like, fire, or where he makes that little kind of laugh. Get him, Dad. That whole thing. This is him all over again, just, much older and no hair. But
what'd you say the initials were? JLF or JKF?
Yeah. It might have been a K.
Okay. Because JKF is John Favreau. JLF, I don't know who that would be.
Oh. Interesting. Okay. I'll need to go back and look. Oh, look, here's Alex already coming in with that too. Although he spelled Favreau wrong.
Yeah, well, can't be perfect.
But yes, I thought this whole sequence was really cool. Unfortunately, though, like I said,
well, he just tacked it on with that missile too.
Well, and I think he saved that for the best for last, right? You've got the leader up front here. He's kind of doing double duty here. I don't know why with somebody else. I assume that's the leader. He's riding in the front. Usually the leader goes in the front. I don't know. I'm not a biker person. But this scene was awesome. The way, just everything about this was really, really cool. And then finally, he gets all those guys and then he uses that one missile for what was probably overkill.
Oh, it absolutely was.
But made a statement because, I mean, it obliterated this thing.
I love it when you make a statement to someone you're killing. It lingers and it really
leaves a lasting impression. Not only on you, but the ground beneath you.
That's right.
And then it just kind of flies off casually, and she looks over at him like, "Man, you're psycho. I love you. Where can we, how do we get more of this kind of thing?
How do we make bantha babies?
Let's make bantha babies together."
Yeah, to the Sarlacc pit.
Okay.
Yeah, this was different. I wasn't expecting to come back here.
No.
I think this is something that's really, again, this is one of those parts that rubs people a little bit wrong. They're unsure of why Boba would assume that his armor is still in the Sarlacc pit. And I think we have to remember Boba was in a state of shock when he escaped the sands. And the sands probably covered up where he escaped from, but why you don't always remember this. The last thing he remembers probably before being taken by the Tuskens. And so it makes a lot of sense where he would think it would still be there for some reason. He probably doesn't remember actually escaping.
Yeah. I don't, it's and I don't mean anything.
Anyway.
Well, yes. But at the same time, like, I don't understand how somebody can get that hung up about it. And I've seen some people that have just been irate.
Have you met the Phantom?
No, and I get that.
We have a special ability. It's a secret power.
Yeah.
It was in West End Games back in 1996.
Yeah. Let me bring up another reference to
right.
West End Games. But I mean, I don't know. Have you never been through trauma? Things get shady. Lines start to blur. So if you've ever been in a car accident, I've never been, but I know if you look at some of the people that have survived trauma, but specifically car accidents or really massive like fires and that sort of thing, they don't remember much about anything up until the point that they go unconscious, and even if they came to bits and bouts throughout it, they don't recall a lot of that. It's not to say that everybody goes through that, but this dude was digested for God's sake. There was an explosion. There was probably people piling on him and all kinds of other crap that was going on. So I don't think it's really hard to explain this, and I don't see why everybody got so hung up on it, but it's fine.
If I died by malfunctioning jetpack, I'd probably want to forget it too.
Yeah.
Just to be honest with you.
He's trying to save face. He remembers, but he's like, no.
I All right. So this is the one problem I did have with this episode. And you mentioned that you liked this when we
Yes.
started the show.
I did a lot.
Yeah, but how it inverts without any kind of repulsors on the front and the back is still firing makes zero sense to me. I'm sorry. Like even visually, it just doesn't make sense. How is it doing this? It defies all logic.
You're talking about a series.
I don't care. This isn't Star
lightsabers.
Wars door logic.
And
This is ship logic.
okay,
Come on.
I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
It still looked cool, man. I like the fact
I
that
thought
was,
it looked cool. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no argument there. But I was just like, hold
so
on.
maybe wait.
Yeah.
Okay, well, how about this? Okay, well, no, because I'm trying to poke holes in your theory here.
Well, I was like, okay, maybe he's got some sort of thing coming from the flaps. You know, maybe he's got, like a
Repulsor
resistance
lifts.
there. Right, but there was no sand blowing anywhere. So, yeah, he was he was using the force.
There you go. Who said that? Anybody say that?
God.
Oh, that was Ash.
That's not how the force
I'm gonna
works.
go. That's how the force works. It is. Creates its own gravity. Yeah, I don't know.
No.
Sorry, Tuan says I didn't have an issue with him forgetting, but I would have hoped that Slave One had a Beskar scanner to find the armor.
So that's a great point because so when he does pull up to the thing, he was doing a scanner. If you in the subtitles, it said that the ping of a scanner was going off, and you can hear it pretty clearly when he's saying, "Well, I can't see anything," and then decides to turn a light on because moment of brilliance.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I would have expected him to be able to ping and see that. Now, maybe he did and he wasn't finding anything, but again, he's like, no, it's got to be there. But I agree with you, Twan. I think he should have been able to detect some sort of metal like Beskar with some sort of sensor or scanner.
Oh, that would have been just so convenient, Tuan. Thank you.
It wasn't there.
Maybe, okay, I'm going to have to come back to this. I'll go write I'll call it 2-page essay on how Slave One was able to be inverted with the thrusters firing from above. Okay?
Okay. I want 1,000 words and I want it by Sunday before midnight.
You got it.
All right.
It'll be a Patreon exclusive.
It better be. You better follow through with this. I'm going to be pissed.
So there's one thing that came out from the scene when he says, I think she mentions like, there's no way your armor could have survived or whatever. And he's like, no, it's Beskar.
Right.
So this was a hard confirmation that his armor was made of Beskar. So we had talked about this. I think it was after the Book of Boba Fett was announced, I think, or it might have been. No, it was actually when The Mandalorian was coming out. I think before season 1 of The Mandalorian, we did that Mandalorian special, right? Where we were talking about Boba Fett's armor and weapons that's what it was. We were talking about the equipment and the weapons of
Right.
Mandalorians, right? And in there, we had talked about Beskar, and we had mentioned that prior to canon, Legends had always had Boba Fett's armor made of Durasteel, which is pretty solid stuff. Beskar being something completely different. And we weren't sure where this was going to land, but I guess this was our hard confirmation that it is indeed Beskar, which we assumed, I think, from the scene. What was it? What episode was that in The Mandalorian where he showed up?
Oh,
the tragedy.
The tragedy. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was in there that we had assumed that it was going to be Beskar, given the theme and how that was kind of going along. So, anyways,
Right.
All that said is officially now canonically that it is Beskar and not Durasteel. So I'm glad we got that out of the way.
Right.
Here was the Sarlacc pit here. And so this has been years now that have passed. And I know there was a question about whether or not did he
we kind
build
of
a
thought it was
Sarlacc.
dead.
Yeah.
We kind of thought it was dead at the beginning of the series, but clearly just a bit dormant.
If you go, and I don't have anything canon-wise, I only know from Legends, these things are massive, right? You're seeing the maw in like these shots in Return of the Jedi, but they're huge. I mean, they're massive creatures that live, like they take up a ton of space underground. And so I don't think it's implausible for us to think that he would have been able to cut himself out and hurt the creature enough that it wouldn't be able to kind of go after him and get away. But it would take quite a bit to kill this thing. I mean, this is what crate dragons eat,
Well, yeah, exactly. That was the thing we learned from The Mandalorian, was that this is the one thing that can kill a Sarlacc would be a crate dragon eating it and making its home in the Sarlacc pit, and the domain it had. So, yeah.
This is that shot I was talking about. I love the way this was filmed, and
It was
started
cool.
getting
Yeah,
darker
the
and
shadow
closer.
coming across. Yeah.
This was supposed to be. I've got a better picture of this. I took this one too soon. I don't know what this looks like. Looks like the mouth of a dog or some sort. But at some point, this is what happens. That beak comes out, which is good because I was worried that they had not included this. We didn't see it when he was breaking out. We didn't see the beak come out, and that was something that was added in as part of the '97 special editions.
Right.
So good to see that this thing was still there. Where it was, I don't know. Maybe it grew back. Maybe it retreated. It went somewhere else. I don't know what the physiology of what these things are outside of that they're massively large. Hearing this fire off was awesome.
Yeah.
The guns on Slave One are just really cool sounding. They've always enjoyed them, but
yeah, and you talk about like the particle effects of CGI. This is another really great example of how well they've got the particle effects going.
And this was cool too because I think this was now the second time at least that Fennec Shand has kind of gotten them out of trouble. Right? They were trapped in the palace, and she's the one that kind of finally got the door open. And here she is again. I mean, granted, Boba had his hands full, and he was trying to keep the ship from getting sucked down in there by this thing pulling on it.
Right.
But she's very ingenious, I guess, or that's not the word I was looking for. I can't think of the word, but creative in how she can.
Right.
There's
ingenuity.
Another word. Yeah, her ingenuity came out here as well. So
right. And of course, we get the sonic charge.
Yeah. I mean, I never thought it. Excuse me. I never thought we would get like. Again, this feels like fanboy kind of stuff. I hate to say that, use that term, but it just feels like it's so playset stuff. Like, man, what would happen if you took a seismic charge and put it inside the belly of a Sarlacc? Man, what would happen? And it happened. Like, we got to see what it was.
How else would you kill one?
Yeah. Right? How would you kill one? This was so cool to see. Like, I never thought we would see this. And I wonder we only get to see the top here, but my goodness, it's got to be a hot mess down there now after that goes off.
I mean, he gets down in there too after. Yeah, he is.
We get to see him kind of coming out of there, but but yeah. And I think some of the people with us tonight have already mentioned that line of don't touch my buttons, which again was a cool line. It was funny. It felt like Star Wars. I know I kind of went on a tirade about what that meant, but
but again, it was also next time, and he had called her out for saying next time previously.
Yeah.
So it was his turn to say next time.
Oh, I forgot that line too. Yeah, fire in the hole is what she said. So yeah, bad indigestion at this point. He goes back in and hold on, I got a question here. Rob says, how did Slave One not get damaged though? So and this is going to not to get into the physics of the seismic charges. I mean, there's a problem that I had with them. As much as I love them, as much as I love the sound, the science eludes me to some extent because
it doesn't go on a plane. Exactly.
And so probably what Rob's picking up on is what Ash is saying. It's plot armor. Right. It doesn't make sense, and I don't know how to rationalize it, but it seems it's very convenient. It can be a straight, thin plane when it needs to be, and other times it can be a plane that starts at the top but has depth. Right. You know what I mean? And nothing above it. So it's for the sake of plot more than anything and convenience. Right. So,
but it worked.
It worked. Enough. Yeah. I mean, it definitely got the job done, and it allowed him to kind of go back in and start digging for his armor, trying to find it. And
I love how only his overcoat is like burned in acid. His underclothes are like perfectly fine.
Yeah. But here's mommy taking care of little Billy boy.
Right.
Getting in the mud again, getting all dirty. But
right.
Yeah.
How much water have you had today?
Did you take your allergy pills? So yeah, this was him kind of. So this would explain that he's taken even more damage now. You know what I mean? On top of what he already had suffered through as part of the initial incident. Now I don't know how long he's been diving here for this stuff, but yeah, I mean he's just subjecting himself to even more acid and more damage looking for the armor. Just make out already. That's what I'm saying. Like you can see it in her eyes.
Yep.
Their thing.
I'm holding out for Mignowen.
I'm holding out for Avar.
I think I win in that scenario.
Yeah. With you. Yeah, I think you do too. Okay. They get back to camp, and again, another great, say intimate moment. And I don't mean that in a,
Well, this is where we get the really great line about, you can only go so far without a tribe.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that was really, I thought about something that you had said probably when the series, I mean, you probably said it a number of times of Boba's finally come to this point where he knows he can't go it alone anymore. And we had talked about how he was going to get the band together and build a team, right? Build an army or, that type of thing. And while I don't know this going that far, I think this was definitely one of those moments where he has more of a kindred spirit with her and has this reflection moment where it's really good. I really like this, that, he was able to say that, you can go it alone, but at the end, I mean, it was like this with his dad too, I think. And that may be why we get some of these reflection of him being left and not having that connection with someone too. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And those types of things tie in of, it feels good to have family. It feels good to not be alone and know that you can rely on the people around you and you can trust them, that they will take care of you and you will take care of them, and that's the thing about him being able to offer her something like loyalty and pledging his life to protect her, if she joins him. I mean, that's something that no other person is going to do except what you would expect in a, more spousal type of relationship or committed relationship. Right.
Yeah. 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 And this is at the end, at the heart of Star Wars.
Yeah.
And I say this with utmost confidence and security, but at the heart of Star Wars, it is family. When I've mentioned before, the very first show I ever did for the Cantina Cast, I got to pick the topic, and I picked family because I felt like that was the most important thing to me. It's the most important thing to a lot of the characters. We saw it with Luke. We saw what it did to Anakin, driving him crazy because of his family, trying to support them, take care of them. You've got the components of like Ezra, and you've got that aspect of like what is a family, right? He had his own family, his real family, but then he developed another family in the crew of.
Imagine if we were to revisit that topic these days. I mean,
Yeah,
all the other material we've got. Yeah,
there's a lot of examples now where we see this time and time again.
Right.
And Boba is one that never really had a family. As much as he was surrounded by people that looked just like his dad was constantly away. He was being taken care of by the Kaminoans, allegedly, whoever was watching him. And, it wasn't until, of all things, being left for dead that he finally was able to realize the benefit of having a family and what that means. And that was provided to him by the Tusken Raiders. And so all of this comes out because this is a moment where she says, "You're getting soft." And he fires back and says, "I'm not soft. I'm stronger." Right. What was the line he said exactly? I had it written down here.
Yeah. The Tuskens made me strong. Yeah. And
you can only get so far without a tribe.
Right.
Right. So him acknowledging that, yeah, you can try to do this alone, but where do you end up? Right. You end up like this, where you're basically left for dead or constantly on the run, or somebody's always got, a death mark on you for some reason.
Right. Working for some moron that doesn't know what they're doing.
Right.
Right.
But if you surround yourself with good people and have a family, then you can get further.
Well, I think some of this, we also got, a little more keyed into how Boba feels. It's not, he talked about saving lives, right? So he's not a hero. He's not about saving lives or anything like that. Boba's about getting the job done, right? And being smart about it and the most efficient way of doing it. Now, he will kill anybody that gets in his way, make no mistake. But at the same time, it's necessarily about, protecting people or saving lives. It's about getting things done and doing it the best way, or at least the best way for him to accomplish his ends. And so I think it was a bit of an insight there, which I think some people have misinterpreted a bit, though, to say that, well, he's now a protector of people, which I still don't think that's his character. And clearly we're getting a lot of examples where that's not the case, right? He stood by and watched Chrysanthemum rip someone's arms off. So, I mean, clearly there's some violence, right?
Right. Well, being a protector of someone, much like the Jedi, right, as an example, and I would probably go to, well, really all the Jedi, but the ones that are fresh in my mind are the High Republic Jedi, right? They sacrifice themselves every single day to protect people, and that's one aspect. That and being protective of your family are not mutually exclusive, right? They're very different in the way that you approach these things. And where this scene really kind of hit home for me, or I wouldn't say hit home, but where it really resonated for me is when you go back to season 2 of The Mandalorian, and we were really questioning why, outside of the fact that, Mando had given the armor back to Boba Fett, and Boba Fett seemed like he was completely committed at that point to following through on getting Grogu delivered and we talked about it a little bit. I don't think we dug into it too much, but it just felt weird. Like, why is this so important to Boba Fett, right? Why would he want to? He's already got his ship. He's got his ship. He's got everything. He's got his armor back now. Why is he sticking around? I mean, and maybe he's just a good guy now, or maybe it's for the sake of plot and convenience. But if you go back to what's going on here, that makes more sense now, because now he may see Mando and the child as family, and he wants to preserve that relationship, or he sees a lost boy like himself, or Tusked, right, who doesn't have a family, and he's trying to return. He wants to get that kid out to his family at this point because that's important to him now. All of that kind of makes sense, and I credit the writers, and maybe rightfully or wrongfully, I do credit Jon Favreau for kind of weaving in those little tidbits for us to kind of explore a little bit later and kind of make sense a little bit later.
Right, but I think it's also this, and again, we kind of viewed this with the Mandalorian too, or with Din specifically. It's this general sense of honor, though, and respect for other people.
Yeah, I think
In a certain
yeah.
way. Yeah, and when someone's earned that bit of respect and they've done something for him, he will repay it back. He does have that sense of debt and repayment, right?
Sure. Yeah.
When you've done something for me, I will commit to something and I will see it through. I won't abandon you just because, that sucks. That kind of happened. Well, I guess we're cool, right? And we just kind of depart ways. Like, no, he's going to see that all the way through, and that he's going to, and that's the bit of the, for lack of, and maybe this is right or maybe not, but the Mandalorian side of Boba Fett, of what maybe he learned from Jango, right? And to an extent, the same type of things you're talking about, the same type of cultural aspect that the Tuscans had of taking care of your tribe,
Yeah.
and taking care of the people in your village, right?
Mm-hmm. So pair that with the Boba Fett we know from the Clone Wars. I mean, it feels like a very different character. Like,
Right.
You could
Very
tell
selfish, very
exactly
self-centered, very
tuck
demeaning.
and
to
run.
other
If things get
people.
tough, I forget it. Every man for himself kind of thing. There wasn't a
yeah.
whole lot of honor and respect in him, but he had problems. So
Yeah, degrading to other people, right?
okay, so that ends the flashbacks, except for the one final moment, which I think they threw this in here as kind of like, okay, we're caught up now, right? Here's the last flashback. No,
not
I'm not. I don't believe
totally,
it, but I think this
yeah.
is where they were maybe kind of trying to throw people off,
Right.
or maybe it was just fun to watch Bib Fortuna get slaughtered all over again.
Right.
I don't know.
We should have probably seen it like in 3 or 4 different angles.
Yeah, right. Here's him falling. The Rashomon effect is what I was trying to think of the name.
Yep, taking the throne.
Taking the throne. What is that? Spotska? Botchka? What was the drink called?
Yeah,
Something like that. And then we get that crazy looking Matrix thing as we transition out of the thing. Okay, let's get into the present day. So for hour 3.
Oh my goodness, we are at hour 42.
Well, we knew this was going to be a long show because it was a long episode and there was quite a bit to dig out of here. But plus, you like to talk.
Right. So he's done healing. Congratulations, Master Fett.
Yeah,
you
it was
now healed.
Unceremoniously, just hey, you're done. Congratulations, and he looks fine. He looks great.
Yeah, he's looked fantastic.
So, is he done healing though?
Well,
do you think we're going to get more back to baths outside? Because he could get injured at some point, and he has to go back in, and that gives us an opportunity to have another flashback.
That would
remember
kinda,
that.
I got to be honest, that would kind of be crappy if that was the case. But I mean, it makes sense that he would go back to the back if he did get injured. But for that to be the place where he has these ruminations, if you will, that just seems a bit convenient to me. But
maybe.
But it's a device. You can use it, right?
Yeah, I mean, if there was something still compelling that they wanted to tell, and I think they would still use it.
Yeah, and I think there's still a couple of things they could probably dig into just a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just the way she looks at him, it's like, just get in the sack already.
I love how her hair like frames her face. It's great.
No, it's very true. If you notice too, when he wakes up on this out of this back to tank, he opens his eyes first. I think he's still got the fear of chrysanthemum in his eyes.
I would too.
Sleeping with one eye open.
Get a giant Wookiee with a scar on your eye and everything else. Yeah. Grabbing you by the throat.
They're okay, so let's keep moving here because I know we're kind of running out of time here. All right, so there's the whole exchange about the Major Domo. She mentioned that the mods are kind of out in the streets looking for them, that they're going to find him if he's out there. My guess is he's with the Pikes, and he's kind of really embedded with the Pikes at this point. So if we see him again, I would really doubt it, unless I don't see him going to war, right? If they decide to attack the base, or then that definitely can't see him riding into war. But if somehow they take the battle to the Pikes, then there's a good chance that we'll see him again.
Right.
But he decides that he's going to head into head to the cantina. And this is where we get this whole scene with the Trandoshans and the crazy eyes that they got. Man, it was like on full display in this episode. I know we talked about the weirdness and what was weird or what was different. And I mentioned that it was the CGI eyes, and it was pretty obvious in this one. They just look so weird. I don't know. Not bad.
Well, yeah, and some of it is that they do the horizontal closing of the eyes, like on some of the effects, which is cool. But I like the whole Chrysanthemum. Just maybe couple of pints there too much. Looking at these guys and just getting pissed, knowing that he's a bit grumpy already.
Yep.
Yeah. That's par for the course for Chrysanthemum.
What kind of beer do you think Chrysanthemum drinks?
He's probably a good, stout kind of drinker, but when you just want to get plowed, you just pound a bunch of ales.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
But when he wants to chill, he is a good stout guy. That's what he looks like.
Guy. I don't see him like being a real hoppy person.
No, he probably thinks that's a little too mainstream for him. Yeah, he's kind of just give me a straight up lager and ale.
Give me a Guinness.
Yeah. When he wants to hang out, it's like, just give me something dark and creamy. It's gonna be great.
Okay. To Juan, Coors Light.
He can't even spell it right.
He said Coors Light, but
he said too many Coors Lights already.
You're
Coors
drunk.
Light.
You're drunk. Go home. Go on. But this was really cool that he was sitting here just throwing back beers left and right. And he's just steaming, right? Because if anybody doesn't know, he's got nothing. He's got nothing else to do now. He's been embarrassed to some extent, right? His pride's been hurt. And he's sitting here watching these freaking Trandoshans who they hate. I mean, if you remember when they were bringing tribute, the Trandoshans came in with a Wookiee hide, right? So it tells you everything you need to know about the relationship between Trandoshans and Wookiees. And he's got these little smug guys sitting here just raking in money left and right and watching them. And I hate these guys. I really do. I'm glad he ripped their arms off on them.
Right. And for people who don't remember in Legends, the Trandoshans enslaved the Wookiees for a very long time. And those two species do not get along at all.
Yep. He just finally gets fed up and takes the battle to them, starts beating the crap out of him. I mean, this is a good shot here of like when that brass knuckle, the knuckles that he wears, the electric knuckles or whatever, hits and explodes in that guy's face. I mean, what I hate most about them is the way they dress. Like, look at this outfit. It is absolutely horrendous. And that's why Boba Fett's looking. It's like, really, dude, you can't dress like this? So you can see it there in his face.
Well, he's like, I can't believe you're like Garza Fwap. You're like, Fwip, why are you having fake plants that just barely fall over when someone crashes into it?
I know, I saw that too. I didn't want. And the pot holder or the plant holder is really not a plant holder. It's like a piece of cloth or something.
Yeah, it's like wrapped around. It was a bit.
It was odd. I'm glad you picked up on that because sometimes I feel like, man, I am so in the weeds on this stuff about what to talk about.
But I know. I just don't.
I think I've influenced
I just don't
you.
vocalize it like you do.
Right. You don't write it down in the notes. That's
right.
The biggest difference. The outfit is straight out of 1981. Good times. It's something that J.J. Walker would be wearing. No, that's Fat Albert. But
I know, but still the same era. You just put a sweatshirt on him, you'd be fine. You fit right in.
I won't argue on that. But that's what he was saying. 1977 is probably more like it. But this scene here where
he's like, oh crap.
The dude smashes it and he turns around and you can almost see like his fists are going up like, okay, I'm gonna do this, like he's gonna fight him. But he's just got a great look of terror. This is where I felt like the eyes worked really well and just the physical acting of this character or the actor here and what he did to kind of convey the terror that is Black Chrysanthemum coming up. Oh, she's just so wonderful to look at.
Yeah, Jennifer Beals is a pretty lady.
She's so beautiful. I thought this was awesome. Like what her work here.
But who the hell like hits Chrysanthemum on the back of the head with a glass? Thinking that's a great idea.
I don't know.
I have an idea. Let's smash a Wookiee on the back of the head with a cup.
Right.
And see. It's probably going to be fine. No worries.
Kicking over an anthill.
Right. But she gives it her best shot here of pleading to his days in the arena. He's a champion. He's he's won everything there is to laid it on a bit thick though, to where it was definitely not sincere. And this is the part that I really love though. I love that Chrysanthemum just kind of saw through that. He was like, well, I'm thinking about it, but
Yeah,
screw
and he
you.
thinks about it. You can kind of
Yeah.
see where he's thinking about it.
He's like, nope, you're not going to do this to me. I am who I am. And he rips his arm off. Fantastic.
This scene did kind of two things for me, and it almost felt a little on the nose at some point.
Yeah.
But and what I mean by that is, one, yeah, she was kind of trying to diffuse the situation because she didn't want to mess in the bar, and I get all that, right? The other thing that was happening in the scene, the subtext of the scene, was setting up Chrysanthemum for the audience, or maybe even for himself in character, to realize that he doesn't have a whole lot of options, and she comes across as very patronizing in the way she's talking to him.
Yeah, it surely does.
But she is kind of really laying it on thick because they're signaling to the audience, look, this guy is kind of like a has-been, right? I don't know if that's really a fair word to use for him, but there was a moment where he was the stuff, and look how far he's fallen now, right? He's now just kind of wandering around in bars, getting drunk and picking fights with people that have no real way to fight back. I mean, this was not even a fair fight whatsoever. Yeah, he was drunk, but that's just more sadness to his story, right? That he's just kind of like this sitting there getting drunk by himself. And so what it does is it allows the audience to think, or at least hopefully it sets it up so that when Mando walks out, when Boba Fett walks out, he's playing to that, like, hey, remember everything that you just heard, you, Black Chrysanthemum, and the audience? Here's now here's the opening that he's going to take advantage of to kind of recruit him in, to be like, you got nothing else. You're on this planet with me. You've been embarrassed by everybody now, so why don't you just join forces with me, right? I saved your life, and we didn't get the life debt thing, and that's totally fine. I wasn't saying all that really, but
right.
I think there is a part of Chrysanthemum that feels like, yeah, what else do I have? And plus, if he's going to be shelling out money, which there seems to be no shortage of for Boba Fett, this all makes sense that he would join him at that point.
Right. Yeah, and there was a comment in the chat about he didn't kill anybody. If you've ever seen a bar fight, no one's in there to kill anybody. They just want to fight. They just want to like rip stuff up and make a mess and beat people down. And they have no intention of actually doing anything else beyond all of that. They just want to get their aggression out because they have no else to do. And I'm right with you. I think it's just he's struggling to figure out what his place is in the world. And after the embarrassment and what he experienced at the foot of the huts, was just probably a bit too much. And for those who don't know, the scars on Chrysanthemum's eye are actually from Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah.
Yeah. So on his left eye above on his forehead, those are actually from Obi-Wan, if you were curious.
Yep. I think in the comic book,
he slashes him with his lightsaber.
Yeah, but I'm trying to remember I don't remember the circumstances. I can see the panels where they were fighting.
Yeah. Issue 20 of the first series of Marvel. Yeah.
Okay, so I know I got a lot of pictures here, but
I love how dynamic his face is, though.
Yes.
They really have done a great job with this mask and everything, just to get the facial emotions, and the eyes are really easy to see, and the way that he growls and stuff. They did a fantastic job with the mask. They did not do as much of a good job with that mask on the left of that, whatever that is.
This is this was from the cutting board of Spider-Man, the first Spider. This is the Green Goblin test costume that they used, repurposed for Star Wars. No, I don't. This was it looks like Zebarelli. It looks like Zeb. It looks like the concept art sort of for Chewbacca. I don't know if that's where they pulled it from, but that's what it looks like to me. But man, that thing's creepy. It doesn't blink. It never closes its mouth. There's another scene in here where it's just sitting and it's just kind of like, like looking around like that. So
yeah, but
it's Star Warsy. There's the inside of his very red tongue mouth. I don't know what that means.
Yes. Very good dental work, yeah.
And this guy's eyes are like all over the place here when he falls down. So he'll grow back his arm. Trandoshans lose him. I think Boss lost his legs, and we've got Skier that lost his arm in the High Republic. So
yeah, he's fine.
Yeah. Totally reminds me of Zeb. It does look like Zeb. I'm pretty sure that's where they got that. And then Boba Fett looks at him like, okay, yeah, this guy's got some baggage. But here's another example when you're talking about the looks.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen this look before, and there's a better one here in just a minute when he finally gets to him and says, hey, come join me. Join me.
Yeah, right.
This was interesting when she's like, I tried, and she kind of like was like,
hit it, Max.
Yeah,
confirmation. That's Max Rebo.
Yep. There he
Somehow,
is.
somehow bailed from the sail barge. I don't know
Mhm.
how either. Physics are not a Star Wars thing. So
Looks.
where are you going?
Well, it says reminds me of Albert without the hat. Wait, who? Max Rebo? The
Or the
Bith?
Bith?
Oh, hope it's not the Bith. That's terrible. Thanks.
Maybe he was talking about the space vampire alien.
That's even better. Thanks, Jonesy. Oh, Max Jr. What if it was? Maybe it's his son. Okay. So here's where he kind of follows him outside there. And I mean, this is a very quick scene. I wish we would have gotten the conversation, you know? I don't know how that conversation would have went. I don't know if he understands Wookiee and all that, but
Right.
it would have been maybe one way or not. But yeah, like that look right there where he finally turns around.
Yeah.
Very, very cool.
It's the
looks like you could use a
subtle
job
and stuff too. Yeah, the snarl and stuff just works so well.
Yep, we called it. He's going to join him. Okay, and then the final moments of this episode, we get back in here. I just wondered about where the parking lot was. I guess they just parked in the sand dunes, but
right.
We finally get this scene, which it feels like, my goodness, I thought we
it
were
was
going to
a
get
bit different. Yeah, it was a bit different than what we had thought it was going to be.
Yeah, which is fine. We don't get everything right. We don't get most of it right. We did get to see him, and I didn't get. I wanted to go back and look at the original thing. I'm pretty sure. I'm almost 100% positive we never saw him in there. They chose shots where it didn't have Black Chrysanthemum in there, obviously.
I agree.
But yeah, this is where he's kind of talking about it. This is a really cool thing because Fennec kind of has she kind of comes in and has the opening statement, right? The opening arguments about here's why you need to join
Boba Fett.
Why you need to join Boba Fett, and then she kicks it off. Like she does the introduction, and then she kicks it off to Boba Fett, who's got the meat of the presentation and the pitch of kind of everybody. We need to take a stand, and he's right. I mean, we talked about this as far as like motivation for these guys. If it is somebody like the Pikes or somebody like Crimson Dawn, and it's Spice is involved, it's just a matter of time before they're going to overrun the entire planet. And so what he's trying to do is appeal to them as, citizens, denizens of this planet, and, with duties to the people that they are, have entrusted them to watch over them and protect them and their business and their economies and all that. I mean, he's trying to play to that and saying, look, this is in your best interest to stay unified. And if you can't stay unified, at least stay neutral, right? Don't go join the side of them if they come to you, because I'm going to take care of this, even if you don't, kind of jump in and for the betterment of all of us.
Right. And he really clarified his position. Like we had talked about before, like he talked about cleaning up the streets or making them safe. And he said it here too, but he made it very clear, like he wants them to prosper. And clearly the Trandoshans are making a ton of money off Spice. And so really what Boba Fett wants is order, right? It's not a whole lot different than what Palpatine wanted in many regards.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't necessarily want to rule. He just wants everyone to behave so that he can make his money and do what he wants.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think we have to put a bit of some of the things that we've heard and talked about in the past a bit in check, of saying that no, he's not really out there trying to make everything safe and everything. He just really wants to make it safe for his business to flourish so he can make a ton of cash.
Yep. I've got some more pictures here, just I'm kind of cycling through, where they're all just standing around having the negotiations. I like her smile here too, where she's kind of smirking, like,
yeah,
this is the best offer you have, and if you don't, I'm just going to kill you because I've already cleared it with him. So they go through it. Aqualicious are always nasty looking as usual. He does a really good job for what he has.
Yeah.
There's a moment there where he's kind of like baring his teeth like a dog would do, which I think they're obviously based on like dogs, canines.
What species is that?
Is it the Cloudowinians?
Those are the Cloudowinians?
Yeah.
Okay.
But there's a moment there in one part where he's kind of like, he bares his teeth like a dog would do when they're about to growl. So he makes the most of his character for what he's got. But that's the moment where he says, what keeps us, from killing all of you?
Right.
And right on cue is when the Rancor's hand comes up, its claws, and, wants some scraps, begging for food there like a dog. And sure enough, there's Boba Fett obliging by giving him some scraps. So again, another dog moment, another pet lover moment where you're feeding the animal. But is that enough though? I mean,
no. Yeah. I mean, that's why it's so pissed off all the time.
It
That's why
seemed like everybody got in line and was like, "Oh, okay, yeah,
they all got the
Rancor."
message, right? Yeah. So it's funny. You talk about ruling with respect. That's implied
It's a
fear.
fear tactic.
It's a
That's
fear
how-
tactic, right? Yeah. Boba, let's not mix. Yeah. Let's
Call it
just
what
call
it
it.
is.
Let's call it what it is. Yeah.
Right.
Boba wants to rule with respect, but he will imply fear
Sure.
and implore it anytime that it makes a lot of sense. He just won't overtly do it.
So allegedly, all of these guys say
Oh.
they're going to join.
Well, they say they'll agree to those terms, except this guy. He says he'll abide.
He'll abide.
He's
Yeah.
the dude. Yeah.
I think if the dude, I think if there's anyone that's going to churn, it feels like it's going to be him. But they could
Yeah.
be twisting things up, and maybe it's going to be these guys, the Trandoshans, or maybe the Trandoshans are mad that there's a Wookiee involved, and that's what causes them to churn.
Right. Oh, they noticed Chrysanthemum. That much is clear.
Yep. And then they all head out after the party, back to the parking lot, valet, get their
There's
cars,
our
get out of here.
Romantic, balcony scene.
Yep. And Fennec says the same thing right here at the very end, right? She's basically asking, do you trust them? And he's like, I trust them to do what's in their best interest. And I think we had heard that line in one of the teasers or maybe the trailer itself.
Right.
But yeah, I think he's in for it. I think they're kind of signaling that we're going to have somebody double cross there. And it really just sets up, going back to the title of this episode, The Gathering Storm. We can see the storm brewing, right? The dynamics of what's happening with the Pikes coming in and the forces gathering, the storm of him gathering his group. He's got his team that he's now putting together. He's got all the right components for some kind of an epic 3-part, maybe 2-part episode coming up here as they close out, because we're on episode 4 now. So
Right.
past the halfway mark. But I think the one thing, and I'll kind of let you speak to that, but the big one thing that everybody was talking about was the fact that he mentions that he has plenty of money, a lot of credits, and he needs more muscle. And she says, well, if you know where to look, we can get muscle. And it's right then we get the Mandalorian theme, which I know some people have said, oh, it sounds like they're just pulling our leg. I don't think they are. I really don't. And
That would
I
be
think
a bit. Those are the things that I don't like if they do this
Exactly.
type of thing. And I think that's just, you don't lie to your audience, right? You might
Yeah.
mislead a little bit, but you don't lie to your audience. And if you don't deliver on Din Djarin coming in, you lied to your audience, because that's clearly the Mandalorian, theme.
All right. Which would be interesting to bring him back. I don't know what that pitch looks like. And I don't know, it feels like if we're going to go there and we still do, and he still needs to recruit more people, I don't know that this next episode, I know a lot of people are excited for it. I don't think it's going to be the war yet. I don't think we're going to get into the battle. I think there's still one more episode that we need to set everything up, right? We don't know like the air,
He doesn't have an army. I mean, let's just call it what it is.
yeah,
It's still an army of 3 at this point, and 2
True.
Gamorreans
right.
and a Rancor.
Yep. He's still got more recruiting to do.
Right.
We don't really know what the theater of operation is going to be, is what I was trying to say. Like, is it going to be here? Is it going to be
Theater
in
of
town?
operation. Wow.
Yeah,
nice.
that's the military term.
Yeah.
Well, where is that going to be? Is it out in the sands? Is it here? Is it at the Pikes? Is he taking the war there to them? We need to get all of that. And then if we're going to go down this path of the Mandalorian, I feel like we're just going to have to jump there. Like, we're just going to have to accept that he heads out there and finds Din, and we open with that or something, right? To get that out of the way. But it feels like we got one more episode of exposition setting things up before the final 2 episodes, maybe, that are going to be, maybe episode 6 is really the war, the battle itself. And then 7 is kind of the byproduct of that, right? The post-mortem of it all. And we kind of see where everything settles and what happens next. I have a feeling, though, I'm wondering, though, because I really hope they come back to this whole, it wasn't the Kenton riders, that it was somebody else.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if in the process of the war itself, that becomes exposed, that, okay, yeah, we took the battle to the Pikes and we won, but there's actually somebody bigger here at play. And that leads us into, like, season 2, right? Or something, right? It feels like this is all going to be a very, close-knit, smaller type of operation, and that there's still something larger that's looming that they can pick up later on in some of the subsequent series if they decide to go that route. But
Right.
anyways, I want your thoughts on all that, because I know I've been rambling here.
Well, no, and I think that's a great point. I don't like the idea of the Pikes being the big bad, right? Because, yeah, I mean, they're a big syndicate, but we've never really felt all that threatened by the Pikes, to be honest with
Exactly.
you.
Yeah.
And so I think, yeah, they just don't have that clout. But there's another thing of like, if Crimson Dawn is still around, is this an opportunity for us to see Crimson Dawn? And again, I like the idea. I'm right there with you that there is some broader organization really pulling the strings and doing something. And I want to know that there's a reason for all of this. Why Tatooine? Why is Tatooine so damn important, across like Star Wars in general? This planet, I mean, the Hutts now know it's a piece of trash. Like, what is, if the Hutts don't want it,
Right.
why would anybody else want it? And what resources is Boba talking about? Is it spice, or what is it exactly that they're finding on Tatooine? Like, I want this question. Of all the questions we have, I think this is the one I need answered. Like, what is so important about this planet? Please.
How many times have we said in this episode, why are we back at Tatooine? Why do we keep going back to this godforsaken planet? I'm sorry, force-forsaken planet.
Force-forsaken planet, yeah.
So I'm with you. It's fine.
But
I've enjoyed this on Tatooine, believe it or not. But sorry, go ahead.
No, I agree with you. No, I think this story in particular, I think works to being on Tatooine. No, I'm not arguing anything like that at all. But yeah, I hope we do see a bigger organization and something with a little more oomph behind it, right?
Right.
And so, and Crimson Dawn would be cool, but again, it's unclear where Crimson Dawn is, and we're not far enough in some of the other mediums to really understand, where they're at. And I don't think we'll be far enough in those series for us to really understand that. So we're kind of flying by the seat of our pants right now.
Yep. And our back to underwear.
That's right. Our back to where?
Back to where. So and then this is how it ends, where it pulls out. We hear the music.
For those lonely, chilly Tatooine nights.
Yeah. I really wish this would have been them being on the lookout before the
I thought you were going to say pulling the curtains when they went in the room.
Oh, no. Come on. Oh, maybe they did. Maybe this is it. I mean, think about it. This has been one long date, and now they've seemed very convenient. They're up there in this
PG-13.
They're up in this little secluded area.
That's right.
Pull the curtains.
Hey.
Turn on the Max Rebo music.
Have you seen my back to think?
Okay.
Why am I'm like getting deluded?
I don't know.
I'm getting visions of Demolition Man all of a sudden. And I will leave it at that.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. If you've seen Demolition Man, you know the scene I'm talking about. But
Yep. All right. Well, I think that's all we had. What kind of underwear does Boba Fett wear? Depends.
It depends.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
I don't know.
That didn't quite hit the mark there.
Well, there is a joke, but it's an ageist joke, and I don't want to get into all that. So I was trying to turn it into a Boba Fett joke, but it didn't really work out. So thank you for humoring me at least.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess that's it. Overall, I really enjoyed the episode. I thought it had a lot of different things that I never thought I would see, things that I was happy to see. I thought it was funny in moments. I forget the gentleman who directed this. I forgot to write that down. I couldn't remember if he had done anything else.
That was the name I didn't recognize. Yeah, but I'm with you. Answered questions that we came into the series wanting to know. And I think, and again, we keep checking those off the list. And I think these are important ones to check off the list. They aren't not like Solo, right? So one of the complaints about Solo, a Star Wars story, was that we got the backstory on things that we didn't necessarily need or really kind of want, But I think these we're checking the boxes of things that we needed to see. And I think we're pretty close. I think the only one I've got open still is how does he know that Cobb Vanth has his armor? That's the only really big gap that I've got right now so far.
Yeah. Well, and maybe it does. Yeah. I have a feeling we're not done with the flashbacks. So like it or love it, even though it feels like this was kind of signaling that it's done, we're moving forward, everything's from the present now. There's still some in there. Like you said there, I think that's probably worth telling.
Yeah. And again, I think the scene where if we remember back from Mandalorian, when they're leaving, Boba's on the ridge and walking away. So there's a little bit of inconsistency there with him, with Fennec and all of that good stuff. But it close enough. It works. I think it's not anything to nitpick over.
Yeah.
But no, I think overall, like from start to finish, this was probably my favorite episode so far. I think again, I'm with you. The emotional effects of What we had a couple episodes ago was really, really good though too, with the becoming one of the tribe and some of those aspects of it. I thought that was really, really good. So from a heartfelt moment or emotional connection to it, I think that was probably the most telling of all of the episodes. But I think from start to finish, this was probably the most enjoyable, best pacing, I think, as well.
Good point.
And the action scenes were much better cut, I thought, into where they actually felt a bit more, I don't know, quote unquote, like Star Wars.
Yeah, or natural. I mean,
Yeah, the pace that we would expect, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Of those scenes where they felt like the right amount of action going on. So I thought that was important. Yeah.
There was something else in my mind. Oh, the other was going to say Bryce Dallas Howard. We know she is one of the directors that was tapped to direct one of these episodes, and we've not seen her episode. So I don't know what they may. It'd be cool if they saved it for the last episode or the battle episode. I think she's done an outstanding job out on the Mandalorian. So I'm pretty excited about seeing that. There were some other folks too that I forget now who they announced. I don't think we've seen all the directors just yet. So I know Filoni, I think, has.
Yeah, Filoni, I think, is in 6. Yeah.
Is what I heard.
And no idea who's 7. My guess is Bryce Dallas Howard is probably next. Was my initial guess when we thought we were at 6 episodes. And then it wouldn't surprise me if Robert Rodriguez came back and did another one, because he's been an executive producer on everything so far. And I think he's directed 1 or 2. So it wouldn't surprise me if he came back again.
Was Tarantino rumored at one point? I thought he was.
Maybe.
He and Robert Rodriguez are pretty close.
Yeah.
And I know Tarantino's talked about wanting to do Star Wars. He's mentioned it many times in interviews.
Could you imagine a Tarantino directed Star
Wars? What if they left the battle? We're purely speculating, because there's nothing been confirmed outside of just rumors. But if they left that battle scene up to him, I mean, I think we could. I don't know that we'd see the gore and the violence, but it would certainly be implied with him behind in the director's chair.
But if anything, it would have a lot of dialogue to it, because Tarantino loves to talk.
Yeah.
In all the dialogue and everything.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll see. It's exciting. We've got 3 episodes left. Some really good directors still lined up, and I like where it's going. So, and I think it's
Ton's asking about Waititi, and no, Waititi is probably back for Mandalorian season 3. So some of the names get a bit crossed with what we're going to see in Mandalorian. But yeah, Taika Waititi, I believe, is doing season 3 of Mandalorian.
Yep. Okay. Well, we're going to end the show there. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We had a lot of new people here. I think we shed some people when we were talking about Bantha Tongues, but we brought a lot of people back on some of the other stuff. So you win some, you lose some. Seriously, thank you guys for joining on the live feed. It always makes the conversation longer and fun, more fun to play around with and talk about. And we'll be back. We've got a Patreon episode. I don't think we're going to do it tonight because it's already 11:15 here our time, a little bit later than we wanted to, but we do have the fear versus respect episode planned. It's already done. We just need to record it. Jonesy's done a great job on the artwork. I don't know if you put the artwork out for that just yet.
I think so.
I don't know.
I'll do it again. I'll do it again. Yeah.
How come you haven't seen it? But he's got it done. So we'll get that out here and schedule it. Most likely will be either tomorrow or Saturday that we'll record that. If you want to join us, anybody's welcome. You don't have to be a Patreon member to join the live recordings of the Patreon episodes, but then we'll release that out to Patreon only. And then, of course, we'll be back next week for chapter 5 at that point. So
right. Yeah. And hey, let's call a few people out here for joining the chat. We do appreciate it. We want to get you guys the recognition. So Twan, Steph, Dark Tower, Mike, Jonathan, Ash, Qui-Gon J, who else we got? Lauren, of course, Alex, thanks for joining, buddy. Man, we had so many new people. I'm trying to scroll through the whole list here. If I apologize, missing anyone. Iacona 23, new one there. Of course, Risk was on there. Gary Smith, thank you. Oh man, I'm going to forget someone. I'm going to feel terrible. Hard Counter, I saw TJ out there. Yeah,
that's why I don't do it. But
yeah, I know, right? I'm willing to take this on the chin for you. Rob, of course, was out there as well for us. So anyway, thank you guys so much. Dale, man, I know I'm forgetting folks, but hey, we appreciate everyone showing up and making the chat so much fun. We appreciate it. And all the Patreon members, we do appreciate that as well.
And go listen to Cantina Radio.
That's right. Yeah, you got Cantina Radio out there. Yeah. So Albert had another fun Cantina Radio. It's Boba Fett inspired. So if you are Patreon, you get to hear Albert does a great job. This is always so much fun. Albert has so much commentary and personality with some of the music he picks and why and how it's interesting and cool. And then he also does a great job of finding these really these fun commercials from when we were growing up and things that you would see if you have an Alamo Draft House around you. They're very reminiscent of Alamo Draft House type of things when you're waiting for the theater. And
yeah, that was the inspiration, honestly, for it. But
yeah, it's so much fun. But go check that out. Albert does such a fantastic job, and it's usually 45 minutes to an hour, something like that.
Yeah, this one just tipped in over an hour. I think there were a total of like 19 songs across all genres. I mean, it was crazy when I was doing the research and looking for Boba Fett songs. I have some in playlists that I keep for just Star Wars related songs as they come in. But when you do a search for Boba Fett, there's so much music out there that's been created that it was really hard to pick from there. I mean, I could have done another show, honestly, with the amount of stuff that's out there. But I was trying to really go for a very eclectic collection of songs, or genres. So I've got rap, there's some rock, there's some ska. I've got a children's song in there. I mean, I've got some instrumental, and it's all, again, Boba Fett themed. And if you Patreon members, go listen to it. Let me know what you think. And then I put a link in there also on the Patreon feed for the other shows that I've done. I think I've done like 4 or 5. The intent was to do one every month, and it never really, it does take a while to kind of get all that together, but hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I think it's fun to listen to. And I have a lot of fun writing that stuff and doing the research on it. So
if you want to check that out, patreon.com/thecantinacast. And of course, if you want to come join us in Discord and talk with us, and we've had a lot of people joining us and wanting to get the links and everything, eargluemedia.com/Discord. We'll take you right to our server and log in and say hi, and we're all there.
Yep.
That's it.
Okay. All right. That's it. We'll close it out here. Thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.
You're still listening? Wow, that's amazing. Well, I'm here to give you the disclaimer. Normally we do a big, long, drawn-out disclaimer thing saying what's what and who's what and all that other stuff, but I think you guys kind of know that Lucasfilm and Disney have no affiliation with us at all, and we have none with them. We talk about Star Wars, which is their property, and all that other good, fun stuff, but I think you can tell which is our stuff and which is their stuff. If you can't, well, then send a lawyer to send an email to me, and I'll be glad to chat with them. Other than that, you know what's what, so that's your disclaimer.